on Twitch, as you can see, I have got the most beautiful setup in front of me. It looks very dark and mysterious with a wonderful, colourful person on the end that's about to be sacrificed to the housing coven. We are ready, Philly. We are welcoming. And Shadow, thank you for lurking as well. So, this evening, it is a bit different. We are going behind the build. We have recently just had a contest, The Other Worlds by The Real Endgame and their gang over there, which we all participated in one way or another. We've got 3 builders that entered and placed. I've got the wonderful Katchlight. I can't say enough good words about her, to be honest with you, and she allowed me to introduce her. So I did prepare a song and a 5-minute interpretive dance. No, I'm joking. I didn't have time. So obviously,
Glad it's not the pumpkin.
I know. We're going to get to that. That's another one as well. You be quiet in the cheap seats, Liria. You know, just because you won, we will get to you. It's not all about you, okay? So, and Katchlight is a long-term houser, long-term enterer, if that is even a word, into the competitive housing scene in ESO. And she is remarkable. If anybody has seen a Katchlight build, you will absolutely know the stunningness that even goes into all of it. And there's a lot of people, I am absolutely sure, that are here tonight that would like to know which gods she sacrifices things to, who she prays to, and who gives her the extra housing slots. She might answer those questions. She might not. I can't promise anything. Okay?
She might not.
She might not. She might just stay tight-lipped for the entire thing. But she's just amusing herself, you know? And we all did behind the build after the Enchanted Grove and the Gold Road Visions contest as well. And then on the other side of me, I've got Liria, who has been my little housing support as well. And we've sort of dabbled together and we've just sort of like followed behind Catch, and she's like our muse, and Liria has built for a bit longer than I have, and she is new as I am to entering housing competitions in ESO, and it was just another one for the coven really as well, and we have some great conversations. She's my support network, you know, and resident parkourer. If you've got a hole in your build, Liria will find it, I assure you. And she loves doing it. She might even do it for free if you ask her nicely. Just set her the challenge, you know. And if there's a fence that needs to be hired or a wall that needs to be, you know, just raised slightly, Liria's your person. Totally, 100%. And we're going to do quick fire questions at everybody. And on top of that as well, we've got joining us this year, yeah, because was our other one last year? No, it's the beginning of the year, wasn't it, ladies?
Which one?
The Other Worlds one. That was at the beginning of the year, or was that last year?
Are you
Otherworlds,
talking
the one
about?
we just did.
Do you mean the Grove?
The Grove one.
The Grove one was
Enchanted Grove was earlier this year.
Earlier
it
this
was mid
year.
this year.
I was just trying to think when our last behind the builds was, and then obviously I'll edit all of that bit out anyway. It's totally fine. But then joining us, our welcome edition, and we as a coven are a massive fan. We have Spantifical, who was a judge in the Otherworld's housing contest, so we get to peek further behind the scenes this time, and even further, and we get to poke into a judge's mind. We get to ask loads of questions, and see what it's like from a judge's perspective, because I imagine that's quite a hard job to do, as well, to kind of, you know, put yourself into somebody else's build and, you know, obviously grade it out of 10, you know, for various different things. Hi, welcome in everybody. Hi, Snow Spray. Thanks, Philly. It is an amazing panel. I am mega excited about the conversations that are going to happen this evening. We are going to go round each of the builds from myself, Katchlight, Liria, and we're just going to talk about sort of like, you know, what inspired us, and then along the way I get to poke in and just ask them questions. Some of them have been picked and taken out of Spantifical's audience. She put it out in stream the other day, or the other week. just if anybody had any general questions. And I was the lurker that copy and pasted them all into my Discord and prepared them all this evening. So you might hear some of your questions if you are lurking tonight. Thank you very much. This will be uploaded, edited and uploaded onto YouTube later on this evening. So if anybody does miss it, you are more than welcome to watch it back and stuff like that. But I am hoping for a really good night. But for my people and anyone in my wonderful chaos gang, Spantifical, for anybody that doesn't know who you are, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi, I'm Span. Everybody just calls me Span.
Hi, Span.
Hi. I'm a full-time content creator both on Twitch and YouTube, and I've been housing in ESO since about 2017. So won a couple contests, but haven't entered any recently. I don't know if I could compete on your level, but I definitely enjoy touring.
If you entered one, I'd slide off my office chair and have kittens, honestly. I'd be like, oh, she's entered. Yeah, it's like, she's entered, this is it. Like, and again, we're going to go into...
I need to get something out of the way, Cake.
Go on.
We call you Simon Cowell of Judges.
Oh, no.
No, it's a good thing. That's why we love you. It's a good thing.
We have to give context there, Catch. We'd like her to come back again,
fair
please.
enough, fair enough.
So we can't just lay out something like that. Hey, Beryl, welcome in. Thank you for following. We can't just lay like a big thing like that out and then not give any context. So
Okay,
can we elaborate? So out of the judging, it's typical. Oh, hi, I'm Span. Absolutely. I love it though. It's going to go great on the YouTube video, I promise. And we were to what? No, hold on a minute. I've totally lost it because I was reading chat. What was the question?
Simon Cowell.
No, we're elaborating because I don't think she's as mean as Simon Cowell, actually. But however, she has that critical eye for talent. Okay, and I like the fact that what distinguishes her from other judges, and one of the reasons why I reached out to Span as well, is because, you know, there are plenty of fantastic judges that judge these housing competitions, and we as builders are, you know, always grateful for the feedback or, you know, anytime we enter into these things and the time that it takes to go and visit. But when we were watching them and when we have collective conversations as a coven, Span... It just goes a bit more in depth, you know, and obviously there's feedback in there, there's critique in there. Some people can't handle feedback potentially as well as others, but us three collectively absolutely love it. We are always sort of like, we get down to the bare nitty gritty. You know, you have got a stick out of place, you know, on your third bookshelf from the left. We are that critical of each other. So when we see somebody that kind of stands out as a judge on, you know, amongst other judges, that was one of the reasons, because we think that, you know, your opinion when you do judge these and the way that you do present it on Twitch and stuff like that is amazing. Again, you know, and it's not, sometimes it can be quite scary to just sort of, you know, go that extra bit and provide feedback or provide any critique, because there's a lot of judges that just, you know, they will be sort of like, you know, oh, this is really nice, and that's about as far as it goes. You know, it's they sort of focus on all the positives and walk through it, and that's totally fine. Everybody's got their stuff, but just to kind of say what distinguishes you from the other judges, you know, that were available and things like that. And that's not to say that they're not invited here, okay? Everybody's invited. DM me, huns, okay?
But just to say, we really appreciate you.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you.
There's just a moment to appreciate
it's all with
the
love,
judge that
I promise.
you are.
It's all with love.
Absolutely.
Well, we know. That's why we're never offended.
As we sit here looking like we're about to sacrifice her to the housing gods.
Well, on the one hand, I want you guys to grow. I want you to be able to watch my stream back and say, okay, that's maybe why I didn't win. But I also want my stream to see that even though Housers give these beautiful, elaborate designs, we all start somewhere. Nobody's perfect. And also, just how do you differentiate 80-some fantastic builds from each other? What makes a house a 44 out of 45 versus a 43 out of 45? At what point do you... Because somebody has to pull ahead. And it's really, really hard.
I imagine it is.
Phew, I don't know. Like I said, I take my hat off to you guys. I don't know how you do it.
Do you
You
think
almost have
I
to
would
look
be
for
so
things wrong
stressed.
to start taking points away. You almost have to,
Mm.
because every build is going to blow you away.
I'd be like that. I'd be nice to everybody. Like, honestly, I'd just be like, yeah, you can just 10 there, 10. Yeah, you can have 10. So, like, just in general, just to talk about your journey into judging as well, Span, how did you become a judge? Just out, like, out of curiosity, how did you start off as a houser, or did you just be like, yeah, do you know what, I'm going straight into judging?
No, somebody reached out to me to judge. I honestly don't even remember what my first contest was, but I've done housing on stream, and I was a trade guild GM, and we would have housing contests. I guess that's how I started. We'd have housing contests within our guild, and I would tour the houses. We weren't necessarily scoring them while we were walking through, but we'd have like 4 or 5 entries, and Beryl probably remembers. But and then somebody reached out to do a bigger contest. I don't remember if it was one more housing or maybe Locke's Chopped Challenge might have been one of the first ones. I'm not really sure. They came around the same time. And then I got pigeonholed as a housing streamer. So I have to be careful how many I do, because I do other things on stream as well.
I'm more than that.
Exactly.
Because admittedly, I only know you as like a housing streamer, a housing judge, because the time that I sort of jumped on into competition housing was Gold Road Visions, and the Enchanted Grove one. So that was kind of what. So I was like, when you started playing other games, I'm like, ooh, she plays other games. That's nice, and she's not just a judge; she's an actual person, like and things like that. It was nice again, nice for the variety as well. And it's a shame that people do get pigeonholed as well. And do you do anything other? Because I know that we've talked briefly about raiding as well. Because if anybody knows who I am, I'm one of the raid leads and the guildmaster over at Enter the Dominion, and we do a lot of training raids. We train people all the way from sort of starter point up to hard mode intros and end game raiding, just to try and bridge that gap. So originally I was from a raiding hole, and I used to go into Katchlight's houses, and I'd just be like, oh my god, this is amazing. I couldn't even do it. I don't even want to do it. I'm not even remotely interested. And you fast forward a year, and like I was completely overwhelmed to come second as a beginner housing entry, and I cried actual tears. But we will talk about those reactions in a minute as well. And Liria, how did you get into housing? She's still
Honestly,
eating.
I don't remember. I think
Did you just fall
for
into
me,
it?
it was just I fell into it. It was I think the first thing I did was I got one of the houses, and it's just like, you know what? I can see this being a house for my werewolf, and it just went from there. So, and I still have that house, and it shall remain deep in the darkest pits of my housing box as it can.
Never to be opened, ever. So is it something when you, because I'm completely new to this online world as well. So when you come into these games, is there like a tick box of things that you kind of go through as housing enthusiasts or housing hobbyists and stuff? Do you go and look at like the crafting section in an MMO? Do you go and look at the housing section in an MMO or anything like that? Or did you genuinely just sort of go, oh, there's a house, I'm gonna just decorate it a little bit? Because I had the free in-homes for up until like 2 years ago. And it wasn't anything that was at the top of my priority list. Was it ever at the top of yours or Catch's?
Not really for me anyway. I tend to play MMOs just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
If housing happens to fall in it, then yes, I will house. But it has to be things that sort of inspire me. So yeah.
How did you get into it, Catchlight?
Oh, so I realized that we had all these little collectible things, like the busts and stuff from doing quests, and I was like, oh, it would be nice to have somewhere to put these. And then I got Ravenhurst. That was my first house ever. And I waited because there was, in the 3rd week, there was like the 100,000 gold. Because I just started playing and I was super poor. So I was like, waited for the 100,000 gold to get. I was like, when I get that, I'm totally getting the house. And then I realized you could smush things together, like into other things. And then I was hooked.
Oh, she's a smusher. So that's a Katchlight word. Mine is clobbering. Like, so
Yeah.
I know that people call it cobbling, but I call it clobbering because I will literally bash two things together with force until it fits what I want it to look like. And sometimes I might take, you've got like a wardrobe and a box and you go, ugh. And so I call it clobbering. Catch is a smusher. Liria or Span, do you have a word apart from cobbling? Do we have our own dictionary or no?
No, just cobbling. Although
Just
in other
cobbling.
games they call it merging.
Merging. Okay.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Oh, I'm completely new to all these terms, and anything outside of ESO I'm completely alien. It's crazy.
I have a question. I'm sorry this wasn't on the approved list.
No,
but
don't worry.
since we're talking
don't
about
have an
other games
approved
and
list.
housing, do you judge a game by its housing? Because I don't know that anything that I've found lives up to ESO's housing.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. It's the thing that keeps bringing me back to ESO.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't, but as soon as they bring something in that could be classed as a form of housing, then I do tend to fall in it. One of the other games that I actually fell into that semi is housing and decorating is Warframe, where you have your orbiter to do it. The amount of time I went through posing some of my characters just to get a scene right. Yeah.
I
I
haven't.
think we inevitably end up housing in any game we play after ESO, but none of it's never quite the same, is it?
Yeah, I definitely judge other games by its housing.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Fallout 76 has some really cute items, and I will
Yeah.
collect them all, but it's really difficult to do a whole lot other than just place them.
Yeah.
There's some merging techniques, but it's so persnickety.
I
It's
stopped
a bit of a
moving.
mission.
Could argue it was the same with the Arcade game when you had the players housing and trying to get the actual materials to do it. Oh god, thunder bolted logs. Ah.
I know we built a house in Valheim, but Rogue mainly did all of the hard work while I was stuck on a boat. And I was literally like you saw me with wood, and I found it easier to drive the boat backwards. So you've got Cake looking like Cake Sparrow on a backwards boat, like just going down, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And then I crashed it because I'm so totally stupid. And it was
You
absolutely.
really are, woman.
I am. I do everything. I can't play other games properly. Like ESO is my home. I think it's my. I didn't play a lot of games for a long time before ESO. And I'm quite comfortable with the housing. I like it. And when I see other people do amazing things in other games, housing related, I'm in awe of it. But with me, my brain's just like, nope, it's new. We're not going over there. It does. ESO scratches an itch that I can't even explain.
Mm-hmm.
We will.
Well, and it's not even just the housing system, but how you get furnishings. For example, Guild Wars 2 just came out with housing, and I'm brand new to Guild Wars 2. I've played it maybe 2 or 3 times, and like 2 or 3 gaming sessions. And yes, it's new, and I get that they want people to have basic items, but you basically go up to a vendor and buy every furnishing item in the game. That's it. And it's cheap. Now, to make the items takes a lot of materials that as a new player I don't have at this point. But and what's nice in Guild Wars 2 is you can resize items.
Oh, I'd kill for that.
You can just scroll bigger or smaller. So you can take like 2 tables and scroll one bigger or smaller to like tuck them under each other, and that's really cool. But there's not a whole lot to merge together or to, so I'm hoping that improves. But I like the adult Easter egg hunt of ESO, like where you have to find patterns or purchase patterns or earn furnishings, or it I'm very housing motivated. I do a lot
Dig
of
up
things in game because of the
antiquities.
furniture. Yep, the antiquities. So I'm kind of disappointed sometimes when you're just handed items or when they're all furnishings that you can get from the premium store or something like that.
Do you get excited whenever it's like, oh, and there's 75 new furnishings planned?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Or do you just go, oh, another grind bit? Or are you that far? Because I know that, Catch, you've completed a lot of yours. Span, again, if you've been playing for a long time, I imagine your collection is quite hefty. I mean, going and visiting Katchlight's house, it's like visiting IKEA. And she's like, if you want something, just take it. It's okay. And like, you know, I need the housing slots. So every now and then we go, like, the coven goes on a little tour around Catchlight's storage houses or Liria's. And it's like, oh, can I have 2 of those? Yeah, I'll send you 10. It's all right, it's fine. Just, and it's like, look, I want the slots. I want the,
I need the cupboard space.
and the new, and like some of the newer houses in our little, like, because we've got like a little coven space separate to ETD, because ETD are raiders. Like we just sort of do it in a little hidey hole and talk about housing, so we're not pestering anybody else. And like any of the new houses or anybody that's like just a hobby houser at the moment, we are trying to push them into competition housing for 2025, but it's a very slow slope at the moment. We've got to go easy on them. They're very sensitive. But they, I mean, again, I've seen some of the screenshots that they've posted of little builds and stuff, and they are really, really good. I'm dead excited. And
Yeah, me
I
too.
got pushed down a hole, not mentioning any names, that Catch and Liria did it.
It was gentle, okay? It was gentle.
It was not gentle. They pushed me down a
You
hole.
mean we forgot to sharpen the stick, Catch?
We spotted her down the hole.
Yeah, literally. They spotted me down a housing hole, and now I cry and broke daily. Like, daily.
So true.
It literally, like, I just think of all the beautiful things, and now I've kind of learned a little bit more about it as well, because I started with 2 lean-tos that were stuck together and a pumpkin, and I was like, Catch, I've made you a shrine. And she was like,
It's beautiful.
yeah,
It's beautiful.
it's really nice. Like, you know, like, say, I don't know whether anybody has children that's watching, but you know, like when your toddler comes home with a crayon drawing and you go, oh, that's amazing, darling, well done. That same tone, I've heard it from my own mother, and she was like, "Oh, Cake, you know, that's really nice, thank you." And I
That's
just
so
went,
sweet, Cake.
That's the most beautiful dandelion I've ever seen.
Yeah, look at that rock. That's a beautiful rock. And I was like,
nice
oh,
boulder.
I can hear it in her voice. She's absolutely mortified. In fact, do you know what? And then, you know, you have that realization where you go, oh, I couldn't have offered that. How shit, I'm bad. I'm so bad. I was like a Dobby house elf. It was really bad. So I eventually said, one day, I promise you, I'll get into housing and I will create something, and I'll have listened to everything that you've said. I'll have taken on board everything that you did. And this one was very much like a homage to that as well. My Spirited Away build. I incorporated a lot of what both Catch taught me over time, what Lyria's taught me over time. And again, like, I couldn't be any prouder, which brings us to our first port of call, which is going to be my Spirited Away build. The pumpkin was a cute mush cake, but you've come a long way. It depends which pumpkin you're talking about, Caterib, because there is the retrospective pumpkin that is on the talking agenda for later. If you're on about my art piece that was in the Exercise Coven Cottage, then yeah, that is, we're definitely coming to that. We are. And on top of that, I've got some questions just while Catch and Liria are walking around and just taking in. I mean, they've seen and helped, you know, like, just generally be my support network while building this, and they've been massive pillars of support for me, because I get really bad anxiety when I'm building. I'm just like, oh my god, nobody's gonna like it, and I sit there and I just rock in my chair and I don't sleep. I get quite high strung, and especially if I've added the pressure of submitting it to a competition, my anxiety can turn into like full on custard spaghetti brain. I don't know whether anybody else gets that or it's just an ADHD spice. But yeah, I can complete, and then I'll go into like a little housing hole. There's a reflection, there's denial. It's like stages of grief. Like, I completely empathize with anybody that puts their stuff out there. Like, 1 minute you're up and you're proud of what you built, the next minute you're in a reflective hole contemplating your life choices. Is it good enough? Am I good enough? Who am I? You know, you ponder the meaning of life. I mean, there's a lot more that happens behind these scenes, and I think, again, Behind the Build wanted to highlight those things as well. So, for Catch and Liria, before we visit your builds, how many houses did you do before submitting the one that you submitted to the contest? Mine was 1.
Like, how many times did we redo the build?
Yeah,
or
like, or
other
was
houses?
it in a fixed space? So the build for Otherworld's housing contest, did you just pick that space and run with it and go, yes, I'm building here? Did it start off as how did you get the idea? And how many did you have to do a redo of it as well?
I think you can go first with this one, Liria.
This sounds like the whole other time on the last stream. Okay. I'll remember this.
Yeah.
I didn't actually start in my builds. I originally, as I've sort of mentioned before, it's more in passing and stuff like that, that I wanted to smush 3 games together. All of them were Final Fantasy. And it was touring houses going, oh, I really want to do this, I really want to do that. And I've always wanted to do the Flower Church from Final Fantasy VII, and I thought, brilliant, this is a good one, but it's like, oh, I could do this, I could do that. It took me at least a whole month to figure out what the theme I wanted to do was. And then it's like, oh, I haven't got long to build, and it was going from the Grand Topal Hideaway, and it's like, no, that's not going to work. Oh, I'm going to have to rip up my Cold Harbour one because that'll work, and it's like, no, that's not going to work, and I just eventually settled on Moon Sugar. So,
I love
yeah.
Moon Sugar.
Yeah, but other builds other than those, there have been a few. Some shall remain in the depth of hidden anomaly of history, but I think every builder's got at least a few of those.
Mm-hmm.
Your turn.
Nick, same question for you.
I love this. Mine. So I will hold my hands up right now. I told a porcupine when Rui asked me the same question, and I just said, yeah, this was the only one. And then,
I remember.
yes, and then I was quickly reminded of attempting to build my Spirited Away at the Gornier estate, and I basically sent a gif that just was sweeping dust under a rug, like, shut up, don't talk about it. But I'd literally that shows how much I regressed it, because originally I did try and build it in Gornier, but the elevation, the way that the uneven ground was, I had a massive challenge. So trying to copy and paste everything, I call it UHT, as in the long life milk, but it's EHT as in the housing tool. So if anybody gets mixed up, that's just the cake dictionary. And it was the most clenchy moment I've ever had in my life to move, because I'd done it all around Gornier. So when I moved it over here, I had to sort of like rejiggle the bathhouse structure a little bit. But once it had settled here, I kind of went, yeah, this is the place. But yes, I thank you for reminding me of Gornier as well. You know, that was great, because I built Kamaji there, you know, my boiler man that got shelved, bless him.
Oh, sorry,
so
Kamaji. No
I
slots.
know
No slots,
the slots were terrible. But this I thought was quite hard, because one of the things that was at the top of my list was I was absolutely terrified that I wouldn't do it justice. That was it. Like, I didn't really build it I did build it for the competition, but I didn't have everybody else in mind like I did last time. I didn't have sort of how are the because I think you go into like this, like intro hole where you're like, what are the judges gonna think? What are the viewers gonna think? What are the people that are coming to visit gonna think? This is a competition. I need to score highly. I need to get this. I need to get that. And it becomes like this big overthinking game. It's right, I'm just moving so I don't log out again. And it becomes this overthinking game. So this one, I was like, I just need to do that justice because I know that that's a very big world, one that I completely respect as well. And I mean, even just down to putting No Face together, I mean, if anyone knows the size of that ink vat thing that actually makes him up, it's huge. Like I couldn't. The angle that I had to put it at was ridiculous to try, because otherwise I had like just all these tendrils just floating up into the build when you went over to the bathhouse.
I love your No Face. He's so great.
He is. The only tweak I want is, and I genuinely thought Span might pick it up as well, was I didn't put the eyes and the mouth as close as I would like to the face either, so that is on my to-do list to do before the year is out, just to even up his face a little bit.
Well, here's my confession. I don't know Spirited Away very well, so
it's a great
yeah,
film.
I mean, I'm familiar with this face, but not enough to critique it.
So,
because it's quite interesting because we all know Spirited Away. So hearing from somebody who is not super familiar with the world
or the universe, did you? That leads me on to a question actually. I know, Katch, please don't forget that I haven't dodged you in your question, so you can hold that thought as well because I'm coming straight back to you. But Span, when you go into housing and judging and things like that, is there any preparation you had to do for other worlds? So, for instance, I mean, did you Google anything? Did you be like, oh my God, I have no clue what this universe is? Do I do any prep?
Because I didn't want to go over the list too much before I went in. And there's so many universes. Like, how do I familiarize myself with 10 different animes, Indiana Jones, the Clone Wars? I mean, the list goes on. The only one I've done any kind of preparation for was I judged a housing contest that was all based on Lovecraft.
Okay.
So I prepped a little bit, but again, it's such a vast world that I don't have, 10 years to truly dive into all of Lovecraft's lore. But I did a little bit of preparation. If I could do some preparation, it would be, and maybe something I do in the future, is learning how to pronounce some of the things that are in the descriptions.
Oh, I call it all sorts. Like Ghibli, it is the Studio Ghibli. Like, honestly, I'm like Northern UK, so I'm like Ghibli. It's a Ghibli universe.
Yeah, I was saying Ghibli, and chat was like, no, it's Ghibli, and I'm like, I don't even know. It's whatever.
Yeah. So do you find that you kind of stick to the judging parameters a lot more if you don't know the world, or do you find that you feel a bit more comfortable judging it if you do know the world, or do you just treat it as this is what this is the submission, these are the talents that have gone behind it from my judging perspective, and this is how I'm gonna vote for it? I don't actually know whether there was a question in there, sorry.
It's actually difficult because I don't want to score universes I know more favorably than those I don't.
Do you find that's a hard line to like?
It is, because I'll go into one build and I'm like, this is great. This is Doctor Who, and I know Doctor Who, and and then I'm like, wait a minute, but I don't know the little details. And that's where I lean on chat quite a bit. Like, okay, guys, I don't know this universe. You tell me, did they nail it? And I'll sometimes use their reactions to help me gauge how close you guys got. But also, we have to take into account that we're not going to make a 1-for-1 build from a universe. Take Rivendell is a popular one that shows up in just about every housing contest, right? You could have a Rivendell feel, which is easy in ESO with Auradon and Somerset and all that. You're not typically going to have an exact replica of Rivendell. And so I know the universe well enough to know the feel, and then we move from there. But I'll have people in chat saying, well, that staircase is going to the left and it should go to the right.
Like proper down to the T. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
like
I don't care about that. If it's got the right feel. But there was one in this last contest where they recreated Jawa from Star Wars. I was like, this is so cool.
And that nostalgia that you get, or whenever you remember
Right.
watching Star Wars. And me and Liria were talking, and I said, when I walk into Lyria's build, like I get that nostalgia factor of being like a teenager at my computer, Final Fantasy VII, original PlayStation. And I went, you got my heart when I walked into your build with that train. I said, you remember that cutscene. And for anybody that hasn't played it, if you just sort of type in Final Fantasy VII cutscene into YouTube, first thing that comes beaming down, that train, that the big spotlight, and I was just like and I got the same feels, me, and I'm like, oh my god. And again, I'm so glad you were the beginner.
But as a judge, you then have to take a step back, right?
Yes.
And you have to look at the execution. So for instance, I don't know this world. I'm vaguely familiar with it. I've seen it, right? You can't go into a Hot Topic without seeing some of this. And I have teenagers, so I spend a lot of time in Hot Topic. But so, for example, his name's No Face, right?
Yes.
This is not a 1-for-1 again. This is not an exact replica of him. But your idea to use this moving furnishing to create him, and the execution of that is what I'm looking for. I want something unique, something I've never thought of before. One of the big things for me is, would I have thought of this? Could I have done it myself? And if the answer to that is no, you get a little bit of a bonus in my brain.
Okay. One of the things that I enjoyed in one of the feedback sort of discussions was from, I think it was Trask the Tarask. And for anybody that doesn't know this universe, so No Face comes into the bathhouse, and he persuades the little girl, Chihiro, to feed him, and everybody in the bathhouse to feed him. She doesn't feed him. She ignores him, but everybody in the bathhouse feeds him in exchange for gold, and it's like the greediness, and he grows and grows and grows. And Trask picked up on the fact that his face is actually made of 2 cheese wedges and 2 hams that make up the markings on his face with the red guard bowls. And he was like, and it's actually quite funny, the story, if you knew the universe and you knew the universe behind it. And when he said it, I was like, oh, I just stood up from it. I was like, thank you, man, I'm so happy.
Slow clap.
Yeah. Oh, it was. And just like the little things like that you try and incorporate as well. I love the fact that we just stood here like, this is an amazing piece of artwork, like we were in a gallery.
Well, it is.
Catchlight.
But it's an example too of, you made it in a creative way, and it has extra layers that people who know the universe will catch. But it's not like it's worse because I don't know it.
No, absolutely not. And you appreciated it for what it was, and
it stands
to
alone, but it also has deeper layers for people who know the universe, and I think that's really, really cool.
I thought it was nice that he picked up. I really wanted to do like a hand with some gold coming out as you entered in, and that bit I just couldn't get. I couldn't. No matter how hard I tried with a million different things, and then you obviously have to pick and choose slots and stuff.
Right.
And but yeah, I mean, this is what I like him. I when I do come in here, I just sort of give him a bit of a hat tip, and before we carry on. And to the wine, obviously, we needed copious amounts of this to build this place, I assure you. And Catchlight, can you answer your question? I can see you running around somewhere.
No, I'm running around here.
Yeah, how many renditions? Because I know partially, like obviously the progress that Catch made through the Goddess of Rot. How many renditions of the Goddess of Rot did you do?
Many. I think First Her was the 4th house that I tried it in. It just wasn't working. I found that build to be very difficult, I have to be honest with you. I'm used to sort of just having an idea in my mind and building it and not building off something else, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Having a like 1-for-1 comparison to a thing that already exists and is well loved and well known. So yeah, no, it was definitely the most difficult build I've done to date for me personally.
Are we allowed to tip our hats to Bread Melania?
Yes, yes, we can.
So, chat, anyone that's visited Catchlight's Goddess of Rock build, we will be going there eventually as we make our way through. But there originally, she was made out of, is it ivory pieces? Like the
Yeah,
little
it's
ivory things. But originally, Catch tried to make her out of bread. And some of the renditions of Millennia looked like they were fresh out of a Lovecraftian novel. Like, I was like, you know,
It was a long journey.
and the things that these cobblers go through. And I know that there's a few of the other people and house builders on House Folio that do these little miniature style builds, and I'm like, I can't. It's like threading a needle for me. I couldn't do it. I sit there and I look at it and I'm like, that is just insanely amazing. I need to be big and chunky because I've got like Shrek hands and sausage fingers, so I'm really like heavy-handed anyway, and I'm like, I can't do the little tiny precise movements very well, so sometimes I have to do like make sure I've double checked everything. The food took up quite a lot of this. I'm actually on a food ban. I'm not allowed to purchase any more food in Tamriel from guild traders anymore. Because
we've all banned her. She's just not allowed anymore.
I just got
this
dead
is like
excited.
400 slots out of your 700 slots right here, my friend.
It's really hard to giblify it though when, you know, with slots.
Yeah, but you said a key word. Banned from buying, not from receiving gifts.
True. Please don't send me food either. I don't want it. I don't need. Look, all of this. I will turn into a pig. I have nearly turned into a pig on several occasions here.
You have enough left over for like another 3 of these builds.
Yeah, I've got a pile of food. And I get stuck often. So trying to place this, and then so there's two sections. Trying to place this was a skill in itself. Then trying to place this, knowing that Spantifical was a judge, was another feat. Like, so if you'd have seen me, have you ever seen that girl that on social media that walks the pig in shows and she's got that devil stare in her face with a little cracky whip on her? If anyone's seen it, you'd know what I'm talking about. If not, go and Google it. Right, but I was up, down, left, right. Just ducking, diving everywhere, up and over. And I'm like, can we see anything? Is there? I mean, if you look hard enough, I know that there's a couple of gaps between the counters and stuff like that. If you really go down to sort of the nitpickiness, but by the time I'd placed all of this food, I was mentally gone. Like,
just like, I'm not moving anything.
I tried to giblify it as much as I could, and I was just like, and then I was more pleased that I found a use for that giant shark thing. Honestly, because I was like, what am I going to do with it? I just don't know what I'm going to do with it at all.
I found a floater. I've been looking hard.
Yeah, do it.
I just found one.
You'll see what it's all right because the competition's over now. You can carry on looking. I'm like,
I didn't see it in the competition. I see it now. This little bowl behind the pig.
Oh, I see it. This one.
Yeah. There's probably a few.
I said earlier, I don't actually look for them, but once I find one, I'm like, okay, what else can I find?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, the immersion is broken at that point.
I'm hoping that it got too busy that everybody's immersion just like imploded on themselves. And I think when you deliver like a universe like this, I was going through it and I'm like, and the food, and if I could pick a couple of things out of the actual film that people are going to know and that I can actually do within my capabilities, because I'm quite humble. I will often second guess a lot of what I do, and it can get quite mentally exhausting as well, and so I'm just like, okay, is it good enough, is it good enough, is it good enough, is it good enough, and then I'll sleep for like 3 days and come back to it and move it. And this one, believe it or not, it was mentally exhausting, but I enjoyed it. It was my first time sort of making like a proper town. I always used to go into some of the people that have built towns and the creativity of like just layering and smushing. I know that Philly's mentioned in chat, and I just go up there and smush and put everything on top of each other, and I really liked that sort of layering style because I was trying to find my jam. Although it wasn't like I didn't have the competition right at the top of my list, I wanted to find out what kind of houser I wanted to be and what kind of builder I wanted to be. So if anybody saw the Enchanted Grove one, I did like a garden in Exercise Coven Cottage, and it was quite simple in its design and its build, and I was like, right, I've tried gardens. And the next one was like a ship in Merryvine, and I just basically covered the whole house up and went absolutely nuts and built this big wave. And I was like, right, now let me try and do something a bit more like neater or intricate. And I wanted to try sort of, I look at other people's builds and I'm like, I really want to try that. I just want to try that. And then I tried it and obviously produced this.
Oh, actually, I've got a question for you and Liria, and actually for Span as well, even though I don't know your building very well, Span. I think we all started ESO quite a bit after you were around in ESO. Do you guys feel like you, I mean, it's still a little bit early days, but do you feel like you'll maybe settle into a style? For example, like, you know, the builders like Hachiko-chan, it's like when you see a build, you know it's a Hachiko-chan build. You know, that sort of thing. Do you feel like you might settle into that, or I don't know, diversify your building more?
I honestly don't know. From what you and Cake have said, you said you can spot a build that's mine a mile away because
so
it's
neat.
it's so neat and clean.
Neat. It's just Lyria's a clean builder. Like if I had to put something to Liria now, it's like you are very clean and precise in your lines, your structure, your architecture. Catch, I love it when she does things on like big scales and like the big structures that she builds and that sort of like in your face bam as soon as you come up a set of stairs or behind a bush or through a garden somewhere. And yours it's like you've done it with precision eagle eye methods that I don't possess. You know, I'm good at chaos. I mean, the thing is, I picked this kind of layering job and all of these things because I liked the way it looked, but also it doesn't cover up any of my errors, but you can see anybody that's an experienced builder, you can just kind of quite see that I'm not quite there yet, but I'm tinkering. I like this kind of style. I like that whole cluttery, whimsical thing. But everybody who raids with me or just like speaks to me in general, I'm the queen of chaos, so there always has to be an element of chaos injected into it somewhere. Like with the with Merryvine, it's the wave. Here it's more the setting here and the chaos between here and what's going on in this scene, and just like all the different chaotic bits of the different textures and stuff that adds to it. But I think I like clobbering. I don't mind clobbering.
And you, Span? Did you have a sort of, would you say you had a style that you settled into when you were building?
I think so. I think I'm more on the precise with clutter. I think I learned what I was good at and what I'm not good at. For instance, I'm really not good at indoor gardens. Some people can put a tree inside of a house and make it look like it belongs, and I do not possess that skill. But I like to do kind of a precise build with a lived-in look. I think it's probably more my style. I think we'd kind of fall into them, though. I think it's just like an art style. It can change over time, but I think even if you try not to do something the same, it's still going to have your artistic flair on it.
Your touch, yeah.
Yeah, like I would never build something like this, partially because I just can't. But my brain doesn't work in a way that would allow me to use such different large building items and smush them together. I struggle to use like different racial furnishings in the same build. I see other people do it and it's fantastic. And I know that variety is more interesting, but I struggle to do that sometimes. So I will spend hours just comparing which desk looks better in the build. But
there's nothing wrong with
I've
that.
gotten a little bit better, but I'm much more precise. And then I throw clutter in on top.
Okay, so Span's not the Span's weak point is conservatories, indoor conservatories.
Indoor
Okay,
conservatories, yeah.
Add that to the list
Weaknesses?
of parkour, please.
Yeah, I'll build parkour, but I can't do it. My guild hall has
That's me.
My guild hall has parkour on one side to go up to a platform, and most people don't realize that there's also stairs on the left side of the platform, and it's a semicircle. Because I know it's doable because I have made each jump at least once, but ask me to do the whole thing at once, I can't do it. I just can't. I know it's doable. That's good enough.
I can parkour quite happily in ESO. I cannot easily parkour in Guild Wars 2. Oh god,
and that's
those
where it
jump
matters
puzzles.
more.
No. Just I will quite happily call one of my Mesmer friends just to get me to teleport up to the top.
I mean, I know that there's that flying carpet thing, isn't it, as well? One of the brings me into a question to throw into the ring as well. One of the questions that we got was, are there any good tips for playing with light sources? So I know that recently, I can't remember, it's been the past few months, I think, there was a small change to like the distance lighting and things like that. So in this build, for instance, if you start right at I've purposely not gone near the bathhouse so I can show you, but what'll happen is originally when you ported in, you could see the bathhouse lights from here as like a dim glow, and when they made some of the change, if you turn them on, they stay on, and then there's a thing in your settings that you can turn them on with, but I never turned it off, so sometimes it plays sort of tricks on me. But when they changed it and changed the lighting, I came in here and I went, will it ruin my entire build? But then I remembered in the film, as well, for anybody that does choose to walk straight forward, the lights slowly start coming on like in the film, and as you go through the village and the lanterns start being lit, and also Haku's eyes change as well. The front snout crystal ends up, you can see it just in the top right corner of my screen, and then all the lights start coming on, but they did something with the distance lighting, and I was sat here and I literally, no word of a lie, hovered over this bridge for about 3 hours going, is this okay? What happens if somebody comes in and the distance doesn't turn on? And I'm not technologically savvy to put in the notes, oh, you need to do, I saw somebody was like, you need to have it at this such and such a resolution, and I'm like, I don't know any of those things. I could break somebody else's computer, you know. I can't do that. And then obviously when everybody came in, I remembered that Haku was still linked together, and I clenched every time I tried to stay up and watch all of the people visit, because I had nightmares when I closed my eyes of a streamer coming in and Haku being this ball of stone just on top of her with a couple of claws on top of her.
I was going to say, Cake, you were not the only one that was clenching for linked items. Oh
I
god,
love lighting. So yeah, the question was, do you have any tips to mess around with lighting? Anyone that wants to throw it in?
Nothing specific, to be honest. Every build is its own thing.
Try everything. That is my only, like, get every wall, and if you're interested in a certain thing, I often play with, like, it looks like a colour swatch to start off with. So I had a different red brick for the bottom half of the bathhouse, and when I put it against the Deadlands wall spikes, which are what are used for the bathhouse lights, I didn't like the texture that it brought up or highlighted. I just didn't like it that much in general. So then I'd put it against a different wall. I'd put it against this, and then so if you've got lanterns and lighting or textures or rugs, honestly, just walk across your house, lay it all out, and just take the lantern and go, because there's things you can hide in walls, like the Deadlands wall spikes and stuff. I love them. Like for instance, the over here in the pig pen, just to kind of highlight that area, you know, for anybody that's moving around or looking around for like another point of interest. And I think that one's in the floor. Just to add another bit of glow to the trees. I think there's a couple of colander stones in the pillars either side, just to kind of add that little pop as well. But I literally lay everything out and I just wave lights in front of it, looking like I'm landing a plane. And that is my only sort of recommendation for that, is just try everything, put everything against everything. There's some rugs and pictures, you know, that you can potentially walk through. There's some things that you can't. There's some that are invisible on the back of them. There's some things that aren't. I literally just do a disco with all of my stuff and everything spins round, and I'm like, right, okay, let me see if the cogs in my head start turning. I don't know whether anybody else does that. Oh, and the drape on his ear's gone back to red as well. Originally,
Yeah, so
I prefer it red. It was originally red before the little bug thing that came over, and it added a bit more of just an ear definition. So when it went all white, I kind of didn't know whether I liked it or not. I was like, no, I don't know. I don't know.
features, you know, we deal.
Absolutely, because he is all sort of, I can't remember, is it? Oh, there's one thing that's
He's wonderful. Good job, my friend.
I know,
He's
I'm
great.
happy with him.
I would certainly add into that light one is, I know that housing is expensive, as is storage space at a premium. If you want to build, you don't want to have to change one of your storage houses because you just want to use it.
I had to do that here.
The number of times I've had to do that.
I had to do that with this one. Yep.
So I would say one of the really good things about ESO is you've got that preview you can now do with the Crown Furnishing store.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Super helpful.
Use that before you go, oh God, I need these Red Guard lanterns because they give just the perfect light. I think it will just give the perfect light. Use what you've got available, decide what colour you want to try first, and then go, right, what are all the blue furnishings I can think of off the top of my head? And don't get stuck in lighting, because lighting is not the only category. You've also got flowers and things like that also give off light. So
yes.
And there's lots of different other things that you could use. I mean, you've got the crystals that Cake has used for Haku.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm going through the so one of the other things, if you crying broke daily like I do, is I'll go to the housing section before I purchase anything. I'll have a look, say, for a light source, and then if you preview placement, you can sort of go round and see what kind of thing it'll cast on anything, and you can just sort of weave yourself in and out of all of your furnishings, and it'll give you an idea. And you can do that with everything. Pre-placement from that little section, amazing. That was a quite a nice tip that most of the coven gave me as well, is just to pull everything out of there, because sometimes you might not have access to it, or you might have potentially lower funds where you can't just be like, oh well, I'll just buy it and try it. You know, you've got to make potentially conscious decisions about where your gold's going, and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
definitely
sometimes IKEA doesn't have it, so you
sometimes the Katchlight IKEA doesn't have that in stock. Yeah,
but the Liria IKEA might have it.
We might go
One
to
of
the
the
Liria.
IKEAs has got it.
Yeah, you know, and I am always eternally grateful to have the coven. And if anyone is building projects or working on anything, and we pop a message in like, oh, can anybody make this? You know, we'll pay the mats or and they're like, yeah, we've got it, we'll do it, we'll send it. You know, and we have like a little hive hub of just help. You know, and anybody and Liria and Catch have got, I think, if not everything at the moment, furnishing plan wise. I don't think there's anything either of them can make. If not, Lyria's a close second behind Catch.
Very few items.
I think there's a
They
very
pop up
few in
every now and
between,
again.
both of you.
I still remember the shock when I found an item you didn't have for Gold
I
Run.
still
It
remember
was
the shock.
like, what the heck?
Yeah. Oh, how dare you have something I don't have? Span, have you got is your collection looking quite nice? How do you have an IKEA home?
I have a bunch of closets that I have to go one by one to see if I have an item. No, I've got inventory insights, and that's how I find my stuff. I don't have
Ooh.
anything nicely laid out where I can go shopping. So I rely heavily on the
Lyria's
Crown
is
Store
nice.
preview and
Go to Lyria's,
and
Span.
memory and yeah.
You keep mentioning my storage house. Did you actually want me to take us there?
No, absolutely
No,
not.
no,
Not
no.
until right at the end.
You're just
We've already
embarrassing
got
the
an
rest of us.
agenda. Inventory Insight is a godsend. I personally don't
And
use
Deco
it.
Tracker.
And Deco Tracker, I like playing hide and seek with my furniture. Do I pour in and it's there? You know, that's just the spicy ADHD of cake. I
It's
know
a
that.
surprise for Adisha.
Oh yeah, like surprise! I'm here. I'm like, do you know what? I was just looking for you. That's where I need you. I know that.
Spreadsheets.
Oh, well, I know spreadsheets and stuff, and one of our wonderful Coven members has done some nifty stuff with Inventory Insight and Deco Tracker, and basically you can kind of put all these things together and it produces a nice, neat spreadsheet of all of your furnishings and stuff. They are preparing a showcase for it, and I'm hoping to be able to stream it as well because it sounds very cool. I can't stand spreadsheets, but I know that there's a lot of people out there that love them.
I love spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are hot.
Honestly,
Oh,
we'll talk
yes.
about
Yeah,
it
me
more.
too.
Honestly, I'll send you all the details, Spam, because if it's something you're interested in, then I know that apparently, you know, everyone's fangirling over this add-on in the Coven at the moment because it's like spreadsheets, and it's so funny. So, you know, hats off to our resident shady Irish guy that did that. Absolutely amazing stuff, Turf, as well. So we will go and travel over to Lyria's build. Lyria, will you kindly take us to the beginner homes first place entry? We are off to Moon Sugar Meadow.
Heading there now.
I am do you know, every time I walk into that build, I'm gonna be that nostalgia feeling doesn't go away. If anybody has played Final Fantasy, you know, and if you got that, you let me know because I don't think I'm alone with that. Oh, I forgot to turn my UI on.
What kind of builds do you enjoy seeing, Span?
Oh gosh, so many. That is a really good question.
Yeah, well, I'm always just interested. Like, is it like, do you like seeing houses, or you know, do you like seeing, I don't know, something this you've never seen before?
That's
know,
always
where's-
kind of what I'm
where's
looking
your-
for because so many times you go into a house and you're like, this is a great cobble, but I've seen it 4 or 5 other times because we borrow ideas from each other, right? But when I see something that I've never seen before, I have no idea if it's their unique take on something. But when I see something I've never seen before, I'm like, okay, now this is something good.
You've piqued my interest.
Right.
Speaking
Or, you know,
of train.
Sometimes you go into a housing competition house and it's like, you don't know what to say about it because it's like, okay, here's a bed with a nightstand, with a lamp on the nightstand. It's really pretty. You know?
And you're like, that's a good lamp.
Yeah, this is a good choice of furnishings to put together, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm always interested, especially for judges, because you can see hundreds of
Right.
houses a year, hundreds, and I'm always just like, what do you want to see? What would, you know, get you excited? Or yeah, that's always just a wonder.
it's different for each house. So sometimes I'll go in and it's a town, and I love seeing towns. I love seeing good lighting. I love
Yes.
gardens. So it's all kinds of different stuff. I think that's why I enjoy judging, because it's not like I'm looking for the one house I like, you know?
Yeah.
Would you like to be on the other side of the fence as a participant? Would you like to just be like, I would just like to enter a competition just for, just for fun, or, just to kind of, Span still got it sort of thing. Do you ever
I
get
play
that
with housing
feeling?
sometimes.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to have inspiration first. And these days I'm lacking on time. And what a lot of people don't realize is how much time housing can take.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you go into a house, you're looking at hundreds of hours of work. At least dozens of hours of work, but more likely hundreds of hours of work. On top of the time it took to collect all the furnishings and the achievements and everything else. And with content creation and my kids, and I might have a few hours that I can put into something. So I tend to work on things a little bit at a time. I have maybe like 6 houses I'm working on simultaneously, and when I'm inspired,
Wow.
I go work on it for a few hours, and then it sits for a couple more months.
You still enjoy
So,
it? Still bring you,
yes, I do.
happiness?
I do.
I really
But I
like
do wish I
working
had more
with my
time
niece.
to play with it.
Oh, time's our worst enemy.
Yeah, it really
Absolutely.
is. That the extra month for Other Worlds was the only reason my build was finished.
Oh, so that was quite a running joke, wasn't it? Because I was finished quite early. I'd already.
I don't know how.
I don't know how. So out of the 3 builds, I was the first to finish. And I'm sat there with mimosas, and I'm just like, ladies, how you doing? They're like,
Watching us sweat it out.
oh.
Crying in a corner.
You can still see Lyria's tears on the floor if you look close enough. There are still puddles, And I've got my feet up. I'm chilling. I'm just like, is everyone all right? And then they extended the deadline, and I'm like, oh no, like I've got to wait a bit longer. But then that time for me was probably worse because I was second guessing everything then. And
I was just going to ask
re-going.
how much you
Oh.
went back to the house and how much did you tweak in that extra time?
So I added the pig pen, and they brought out the Ifri season trees at the bottom. So I swapped out some of the cherry blossoms because Nifty habit, it was their special furnishings or collectibles which are added into a different counter than regular. So I freed up a couple of slots. I was the most amazed ever that I managed to do something like that. I was like, look, I've got clever, guys. I'm learning. So, but yeah, I went in there more times than I can count, and then I absolutely put like a hard stop on me visiting my own house because I was just like, you are going to change everything. And then sometimes I will get completely overwhelmed to the point where I'll just be like, if you're trying to build a Jenga tower and it goes wrong and then you just squash it, like your dark urge kicks in and you just go, nope, I'm not doing it anymore. And I knew that point was coming. So I was like, right, we're not going in there. We're leaving it until judging, and whatever happens. And obviously in that was the not unlinking Haku and a couple of others. So I was like, we're leaving it. We are not touching it. Just stop. Just stop right now.
Oh, if you want to talk about unlinking,
Is your train still
The-
linked?
no. Well, yes and no, but do you want to know the one piece that's still all linked?
Yeah. Is
I
it the
know
window?
That would completely ruin the build if I had got it.
Is it the
It's the
window?
No, it's the
No.
entire church.
Oh, can you imagine if
Oh,
that was just a
gosh.
ball and a window? If
Oh
somebody
God,
came in,
the nightmares I had.
I was like, and then I think somebody mentioned like, oh, just go and speak to Lil about it, and I was like, no, because in order for me to do anything like that, I need a team of people to direct me in doing that. Because I link everything up and then I need help unlinking it, so I'd have to call in like 3 other people. It was
group
more
activity, apparently.
yeah, like I'd break it. It's more hassle than it's worth. Like there is no point. But this train, again, I absolutely loved it. Coming up them stairs and having just that slap bang in your face was. Oh,
I
chef's
love
kiss.
the trailer links that Liria put in here. I think it's so clever. I love it. I haven't seen it on a train.
One thing that really impressed me about this train is how you used very large housing items to create this grandiose build, but it looks like more, right?
Mm.
There's more probably than most people think it's actually.
Could be.
There's actually a lot of little things in here, lots of finicky things. This
Mhm.
entire train plus the station is nearly 200 slots.
Okay.
So that's like a
Um,
quarter of the build gone.
but yeah, when I build, I tend to see shapes, and it's like, right, I know the kind of shape I'm looking for. So let's use the train carriage, where you'd normally have sort of like the steamman and everything like that sitting
Mhm.
in. I looked at so many different things, and I'm like, I know I need that peaked, but I couldn't find anything that would work. And then I'm like, hang on a minute. I've got a couple of cupboards in my inventory. Stick them together. Oh, there's the shape I want.
Right.
And it was just little things like that. I knew that it's a steam train, so it had to have steam, and I just went through everything that went through steam to the point where it's like, oh god, I'm gonna have to get all these boilers. Um, and for me, when I'm also building it, the platform is not as single dimensional as you think. There's lots of little things in here. I think it's like three of these Markov things just making up the platform.
Okay.
Um, it's there's lots of little details, and it's kind of like if I take them away, as we've said earlier in the stream, it breaks that immersion. It's
Mhm.
absolutely ah. And but I had fun building it. I also did a lot of tears, but
I heard him.
uh,
But I think you very easily could have made this train the entire build
Yes.
if you had used smaller items, etc. We've certainly seen other trains that are 4, 5, 700 items,
Yeah, like full blown things.
and to have a train that I'm guessing the train itself is 100 items or less
try
ish.
about 139.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
over 100. Okay, okay, Liria. Lyria's a housing slot. Like, I don't know what magic she does. But like we come in probably a quarter of the way through, me and Catch, and she's at like 600 slots with this train
Yeah.
here, and we're like, how's she gonna do this? Like, Lyria, have you? She's like, I've turned the counter off. Don't speak to me. She's like some mad scientist in a lab, like near the crafting stations, and I'm like, so me and Catch are sat there like, okay, right, okay, and then somehow like she just manages to just pull this magic off and still save slots somewhere.
I
Don't know
always
how she
come
does.
under the limit
You
as
literally,
well,
out
which
of the
you
three
hate
of
me
us,
for.
out of the three of us, she always comes in, and I did like a weird thing just to make people's eyes twitch, and I did 699 out of 700 because I stood there and I thought I could add an ivy to a wall. It didn't look right. I placed random things everywhere to try and fill that 700th slot, and I couldn't do it. So I went, right, your eyes are going to have to twitch.
That's actually something I noticed recently, though. Having judged contests now for 3, 4 years, it used to be standard that people would end at 699,
Really?
always leaving that
Really?
space for that one extra thing. And this last contest, almost everybody was at max.
Capacity, yeah.
But it used to be fairly standard to end with just one or two item slots left.
I think the one piece of advice that I have running around in my head every single time I build, and the number of times I've sort of had it said to me when I was doing this build was, it has to make sense. It has to have a reason to be here.
Yes.
And the number of times I said that, but when it's like, let's take the lamppost for example. They're so pretty. I had to make them, but
Yeah.
it's like 5 slots.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can just hear your heart dying. It's like, but I want at least 2 more. I can't just have one.
Prize in
Yeah.
slots. Yeah.
Yeah. Cries in broke,
Yeah.
cries in slots.
Have
Yeah.
you ever had one of those, Span, where you've just gone, it's so pretty, I've got to have a few of them in the build, and you just, your heart's bleeding going, I've still got all this, I need slots.
Um, not in recent history that I can think of, but I definitely understand the
the little
the
lamps and stuff.
what do I steal to make something else happen kind of
the
slot.
sacrifices, the housing
Yeah.
sacrifices we make.
You have to be able to be willing to kill your babies, right?
Oh, it's
Absolutely.
so sad.
It is, you know. It's like being in like music class and English class, you know.
Mhm.
The difference in growth from the Enchanted Grove build. So we will slightly reminisce on that. And I know that both me and Liria didn't place in that one, and I know that Liria, you did. I mean, you took it quite hard, didn't you? Well, I mean, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and just to kind of acknowledge the other side of the coin as well, and where we've both come from. And obviously sitting with you through that, and getting used to the fact that we didn't place anywhere or get a mention, and we were like, okay, you know, let's take it on the chin. And you lost your mojo for a bit as well. And again, that was one of the reasons in my reaction as to why I absolutely nearly flipped my desk when you came first. But how's it been, the contrast in just the emotions tied into it, and how did you feel when your name was called out as well? How's that growth been for you?
I mean, I didn't believe it at first. It was kind of like, no, I can't believe this. I honestly, as you said earlier, felt that I just hadn't been placed, that somebody had pitched me to the post again. But I'd had all that fantastic feedback and everything else, whereas going to the Enchanted Grove, that just wasn't there. The judges weren't giving as much feedback, like, I really like this part of the build, or I really want to do that. Water towers.
Yeah, the water
yes.
towers.
Water towers.
um Yeah, and I think that's what really sort of stung. It was kind of like, you, as you say, you put so much blood, sweat, and tears into the build, to not even have somebody sort of go, I really like this, or have very few people going, I really like this, or oh, I was thinking about this, or just give me something to work with, something to grow, because unless somebody gives you that feedback, how are you meant to know where you need to grow, what you need to sort of start thinking about, going, okay, I didn't think about this last time. So the Enchanted Growth, I deliberately went for a small house because I was like, I can't get it done fast enough. But it was kind of, right, I need something that's wow as soon as you can walk in there. And that's kind of sort of going, I need to punch people in the face with a wow factor,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is kind of what I did with the train. And then just built on it from there. And I think that's what it was. It was just, I didn't like having the shortcomings that I had not being sort of go, this is what you need to work on. And I think that's why I went a bit downhill and then came back with this.
This is
You
why we
came
love
back
Span. Feedback.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. You came back with an absolute bang. And so, because we're a little coven together, what we did was, when the results night was being streamed, we got together in Discord. We had a little channel, and we were basically just sort of sat there, you know, wishing each other the best and bigging each other up. But the problem was, we had a D&D session to wrap up, and we had we had to wrap it up before the end of the year, because if we didn't do it on that night, nobody was free until next year, and I needed to wrap all of my stuff up so I could get on with planning next year and everything else. So I was like, and then when they brought Ree out, and I was like, oh yes, it might take a bit longer, because Ree, absolutely, I love what she does. And I was like, well, we know it's not going to be over quickly. Can we get this D&D finished in 2 hours before they get to the beginner homes? So we tried, and we had some people in the voice channel, and then some people in the D&D channel. And we're going along. I've got it on the other screen, but trying not to detract from being a D&D player at the time. I wanted to sort of, obviously, even though in my head I'm just like, just watch the screen all the time. We need to know. And then, so as they're porting in and out of these houses and stuff, and then I saw the Dark Souls build, which was 3rd place for beginners. And I was like, that was a good one. That was a really, really good build. I really enjoyed it just from, because I'm a massive Soulsborne fan. You put me in any of those worlds, I start like going, I get itchy and I'm like, oh my God, look at this and look at this and look at this. And it just comes out of my mouth like word vomit. And then I sort of like looked away, carried on playing D&D. And then Sophie, who was in the D&D group, she was like, oh my God, they're going to yours, Cake. And I kind of looked at my other screen and saw No Face. And originally, Katchlight had messaged me and gone, congratulations on 3rd place. So my heart was like, oh my God, I've got 3rd. And then all the emotions kind of came with it. And then they were like, right, let's stop the D&D game. You know, let's obviously Cake take in what they're saying. So we paused everything. I went and had a look on stream and I froze. Like like there were so many people that were saying like, congratulations, this was a great build. And I physically couldn't type. I just had tears like coming down my face.
No.
And I was like, someone's cutting onions. And then I went, I got 3rd. And then Sophie was like, no, Cake, you got 2nd. And I was like, oh. And then that made me... So then I started ugly crying in the middle of a D&D game. And I was like, oh God. And then Liria, I could hear Liria in the back. So I going like, oh, I don't think I've done it. And I was like, if I saw me before Liria, I knew that she could, because I just genuinely think on a technical basis, she's a lot better than I am. And I was like, well, if I see mine, I know we're seeing Lyria's. And I can hear Liria like, I don't think I've done it. I'm just gearing myself up to not place. And I'm like, so then like there was a switch in me then, because I was like, hold on a minute, I've got to sort of not potentially be reserved in my emotions, but then have a bit of respect for Liria if she didn't. There was that streak that ran through me. And then they went, and now we're going to go to 1st place, and we're going to Moon Sugar Meadow. And then I started shaking.
And everyone was
and
like,
then they went, and it's Liria, and I nearly turned my desk over. I turned into a UFC commentator. I was like, yes, oh my God. And I was like, honestly, I cried. And then I just started crying again because I knew what it meant to Liria, like coming back from the knockback that she took as a result of the Enchanted Groves, and then coming back and absolutely smashing it out of the ballpark. I was just like, you fucking did it, girl, oh my God. And then obviously because I'd come 2nd, there wasn't, I'm not even gonna lie, there wasn't even an element of humility, because I've never done anything like this before. I'm not a housing person, so to kind of come into this world, be welcomed into this world and this community, and then place in a housing contest that I find quite, you know, the real endgame ones are quite, you know, prestigious. I like them. They're quite big. They've got quite a lot of, you know, just following off the back of them and stuff. I never put in anything and expect to place. I made a joke in the beginning that I only wanted a pink torch bug pet. I wanted 10.
You got it.
And I
You
got
got
it. I got my pink torch bug pet. And things like that. We have been at it and nattering for an hour and a half. So I will invite everyone to take a break and just get up, stretch about, grab a drink, grab a bio break. I could sit here and talk for hours and hours and hours. But I need to look after everybody that visits, otherwise they're not going to come back, you know? So we're going to go to a quick break. We're going to take about 5 minutes just to kind of stretch it out and refresh drinks and stuff. And then we'll be back to finish off nattering and delve. I've got some more questions for Liria. I've got some more questions for Span. And then we're going to go and visit Katchlight's house and have another conversation over there. I, again, am thoroughly excited. And thank you everyone for, again, you know, just sitting in, lurking, listening, and watching us on this adventure, because it's been a good few weeks in planning, and I'm having a blast. I love these conversations, just delving into how people find inspiration and stuff. So I will catch up on chat before we go back into it. And also, if anybody's got any questions, if anyone's got any questions that I can write down as well, because I plan to do a few more of these talks for all newer houses. We were going to, you know, potentially go into add-ons and just get as many people on the bandwagon as possible and try and just make housing not as scary as it can be, because I tell you something, I've created some abominations over the years, and we will talk about them, and they are hilarious. And then to obviously the growth that I've made, the growth that, you know, each of us have made through these competitions, again, all of that is to be discussed as well. So you go get a drink, everybody. Okay, I will pause this and I'll put it on a be right back, and we'll be back in 5. I'm back. You are fine to eat with your hands, man, I promise. I'm just catching up. I'm just catching up with chat and Phil again. It is magic, I promise you. I love that 139 exactly for that train. Thank you for my hydrate, Fafo, as well. Welcome in. Fafo's going to get into housing one day, I promise. We're just waiting. We're looming over that hole, ready to push him. And then Beryl's just in awe of the town builds. I am Beryl, to be honest. Sometimes I can't. I look at them. I know the one of the ones that kind of stood out on like a layer inside of things that I really liked. It was the Neverland one, the Lilithnia one. Just the way that they put together all of the things and did the smush smush thing. That one was really good. Yeah. Thank you. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. I haven't unmuted Discord because they're still just, you know, they're just having, well, they're not even talking, to be fair. They're just having a rest. I'm giving them a rest for a little bit. I've got to look after everybody on my panel. You know, we're coming up to the holiday season. Everybody's gone a bit mental. I went into Tesco's today, right? It was chaos, absolute chaos. It was, I can't do it. You know, I lasted about 6 minutes. I scanned all my shopping. I didn't even carry a bag, anything, and I just went straight to the car and emptied the trolley into the back seat of my car. I was like, it's like Armageddon. It's like it's like the end of the world. You've got people that are throwing themselves on broccoli towers. You've got people that are like, you know, sort of shoving for parsnips. It's crazy. And I just sit there. I mean, I remember the great Yeah, I remember the great toilet roll scandal of 2022, you know, and it was similar. Christmas is similar every year, and I went, you do know the shops are only closed for like 1 or 2 days, maybe? Like, you don't need that much. Like, there's people with like 3 or 4 trolleys preparing for hibernation or an apocalypse or something, and I'm like, you got a bunker somewhere? You all right? You lot? Can I come? Are you okay? Doomsday prepping, literally. Honestly, it is. It's a time. It's a time where I buy my children's love. They appreciate me for 5 minutes out of 365 days of the year, and then for the rest of the time, you'd never know I had children. Because unless it's payday, because they know that like, one of them's autistic, he knows exactly when I get paid, and he wakes up and he goes, "It's payday, it's payday, it's payday, it's payday," and I'm like, "Okay, right, we're not on a schedule." I don't know. It's like a little alarm clock, isn't it? And I'm just like, you don't get anything out of that payday. I'm like, did you work? And he's like, I made some gifts for you. He made me these little things that would replace my picture on stream. And I looked at them, and he's downloaded some housing photos that I took, and it looks like obviously full on paint job. I am gonna put them up one day. I might do it for Christmas week. And I'm like, yeah, he said I'd get more followers, and he said it'd make me really popular. So I think I'm gonna do it Christmas next week. I'm gonna put that one up and replace. I have to. It's like I'm now the virtual fridge. It is. He loves Weird Al Yankovic. So he came home. He made a diary for a calendar for next year. And he attends like a school for special needs. So January was fine. February was totally fine. We got to March. That was great. April was Rick Astley. Because of April Fool's Day, and he likes rickrolling people. Like, he often comes up to me, and I hear that song more times than I can count. And then he put July the 4th for the independent. And I went, you know, we don't live in the USA. He's like, yeah, but I've always wanted to, so I'm just putting it in there. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, independence is great, son. We love that. We're all for it in this house. So, and then Ed Sheeran ends up in November. And I'm like, why is Ed Sheeran in November? And he was like, don't know, just like him. And I'm like, okay. So there was no thought process behind this calendar, but I was like, I love this. This is going right on the fireplace. I love it. Oh man, I thought if I went at noon it would be ahead of the crowds. No, FS, no. I don't care what time you between it's not even ahead of time. It's like a whole week before Christmas. So you should have done all of your shopping 3 days ago and locked yourself in a house. Never, and don't come out, because if you do, you're wrestling with people for parsnips and Brussels sprouts, and it's build a Bailey's for a baby Guinness is the way forward. It is. I don't drink baby Guinness out of a shot glass like it's supposed to be. The natural form of serving baby Guinness, which is Kahula and Bailey's, and it looks like a fake Guinness. I don't like real Guinness. But I now drink it in a latte glass. I don't have a problem. I don't. But I drink it out of a latte glass now instead of a shot glass. We're making espresso martinis, ladies. It's Christmas, okay? So I will now unmute and we will go back to having a bit of a natter. Yeah, I hope everybody did get their Christmas shopping done and everybody is nice and ready. I still have to work, which is great. I love it. I love making people. Sometimes I'm the only face that somebody sees at Christmas. Unfortunately, It's cakes. But we have a whale of a time. I'm like, I'm really sorry. I'm not the Thai hooker that you ordered, but I'm here to make your day. Okay, let's. What are we doing? I'm a great.
Still make you happy.
Yeah, we can watch something. We can cook. I can make a great omelette. We're good. What are we doing? And I was just catching up to where we were. So, Liria, do you feel that going from not placing to placing first in the beginner category, do you think you've set a bar for yourself?
Oh God, yes. I think I've potentially set the bar very high, and I must admit it's a little bit daunting going against the likes of Vertigo, Hachiko-chan, Catchlight, Dadpin, all the big names, and it's like, oh God, I've now got to live up to them as well.
It's scary.
And I'm just gonna throw that question back at you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I don't know whether I like it at the moment, because I don't know whether. I mean, I think these are all certainly personal bars that we put on ourselves. I don't want to think that any, we're saying that all these streamers are like, oh, they've won first place and we're watching what they do. But it's more to like coming out of a beginner section and then potentially for the next competitions in 2025 and any of the ones that we decide to kind of enter. We're out of that beginner category now, and I feel like somebody's chucked us out of the fish tank and into the sea. And I'm just like, and these people, again, this time, last year, the year before, Liria as well, we were visiting homes like Vertigo's, Dadpin, and drew inspiration from these people, and now we're in categories with them. To me, it feels quite surreal, to be honest. I'm honoured. Like, the fact that I get to be in a bracket with Catchlight, when 2 years ago I'd have just been like, you won't catch me building. I'm like that old man that don't want a dog and then ends up with a dog and they're best friends. And I'm just like, won't fucking catch me clobbering. No way. And then to go and enter a competition with Catchlight, and you as well, Liria, as well. I love the journey more than the competition behind it. I love the journey that we have. I love the journey that we have as a team. And just, so yeah, I do think we've set a bar. I'm in a bit of a floaty area at the moment. I know that a couple of you are building and tinkering at the moment, but I've just enjoyed reflecting on it, and I don't think I will probably I don't know whether I will start building this side of Christmas. I probably will just take it all in, because again it can, and I wish that I could go back to that moment in time and have use of my fingers to just thank everybody that kind of welcomed me into the community, you know, made nice comments about my build, the other judges that you know, that scored me and went in and really enjoyed it. I've got a bug, I must admit, from going from not liking the behind the scenes and building for me personally to actually building. I found it quite therapeutic at times just to escape from raiding life as well. I know I've waffled for that answer. I'm like, honestly, I do that all the time. I'll tell like 4 stories in one answer.
I'm not sure about you 3, but one thing I will definitely say is going from building solo with nobody around to building with great people around you, almost egging you on to do better,
There's a lot of egging.
build better, build bigger, kind of just in the back of your head going, oh, look, do this.
We're not tyrants, Liria. You make it sound like we've got some housing camp
that's my own
in a
personal
dog's
brain gremlin. Don't worry about him. I'll put him back in the box in a minute. But yeah, it's. I would definitely say that housing is far more fun when you do it
with friends.
Yeah,
Mm.
or with people that you know and enjoy being around, because there's nothing lonelier than trying to figure out what is it that I'm not looking at, and
What am I not seeing?
yeah,
what am
and
I
it's like
missing?
I
Yeah.
can't get something right. I can't do this. I can't see it, and you almost want to throw the entire idea out the window or tip the desk over because you're so
Yeah.
annoyed. To going, hang on a minute, what happens if I turn it this way round? And suddenly it's like, oh god, I'm so stupid. I should have just turned it through 180.
Yeah.
Yeah, just having another set of eyes.
Yeah, and just sort of having fun with people. And sometimes, even if it's not a competition build, if it's just something you're doing in your spare time, something you want to do for people, having that is just really great. And that certainly helps you grow as a builder. I can certainly say that. I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
I haven't been doing it long enough to even comment on. Do you know what I mean? I just got here. I was at home. I was listening to my Will Smith CD, you know, and I started clobbering.
Will Smith.
I've said that for like 5
But
years.
it's true of life, right? If you want to grow, surround yourself with people who push you and help you grow. And to put yourself in a group like this where you support each other, but you also push each other to be better versions of yourselves. And then anything social, of course, is fun. But no, they say that you grow to the 5 people closest to you. I think it's true in housing, in any creative endeavor, in any business endeavor. I think that's
100%.
was that speech a couple years ago? Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. I was talking about kids, but no, I think with anything, if you surround yourself with people who push you and support you and don't put out your light, that you're bound to grow. And it's a beautiful thing to see when you have a group of people that do that for each other.
Yeah.
Oh, Span, I've got a question I've been dying to ask a judge since I started competition housing.
Okay.
If you see a name on a list that's a well-known name, has done well in competitions, etc., do you automatically expect more than you would going into another build?
I do, and I try to temper it.
Okay.
And in fact, that bit me a little bit with this last competition. I'm not going to tell you who, but I have personal favorites, not just the names that we always throw out, right? But I have some personal favorites from previous contests that I've judged. And there was one in particular where I'm like, this is one of my favorite builders. I've given them top marks before. And I was kind of disappointed with their build this time. And it was a fine build. It just wasn't quite what I expected from them. And so I had to kind of take a deep breath and go, okay, forget who they are.
Yeah.
Forget what I normally would expect from them. Is this a good build? And I kind of had to judge it that way. But it's definitely a double-edged sword. You kind of get excited to see something else that they've made, but then your expectations are kind of high, and that's not really fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I shouldn't judge someone like Feuderco more harshly because they're Feuderco.
Yeah, I think that's really my question is do you find yourself having to consciously pull back on the
Sometimes, yeah,
Mhm.
sometimes.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Um,
Thank you. Thanks
but
for
it's more my
letting me know.
personal favorites than the big names that people float.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we all have those. So
Mhm.
I'm like a huge Russian Asgard fan.
Yep.
Can never understand how none of those builds place, and I'm just like, but and how's
Yeah,
it
and you see
gone?
the same names over and over again, and you kind of get a feel for what they're about.
Yeah.
And like you said, sometimes you go into a build and you're like, oh, this is so and so's build.
Mm.
And then sometimes, so then you're expecting that, and then it's not that. And it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not what you were expecting. And so sometimes you do have to take a step back and go, okay, forget who built this. Let's start over.
Let's judge it on its merits, kind of thing, and what it
Exactly.
offers. Yeah, 100%. I bet that's quite challenging though. Like, so for instance, I get to try my hand at judging in January. I've been invited to judge a fire and light competition in a partner Discord. I am super excited, but the other half of me is quite glad that I potentially don't really know anybody that's on the list, because
Mhm.
I'm like, if I've ever trained with them, if I've ever raided with them, like say for instance if Catch and Liria was submitting, I'm like 10, just give them the brilliant, okay? Like I don't get
Yeah.
like and so I imagine that can be quite a hard thing to sort of just
Right.
get
And you
under
can't do
wraps.
that. And just like if they're in your stream, or if they're one of your regular viewers, or if, they're watching you while you judge it, you can't let that sway your judging,
Yeah.
or that's not fair. Um and that's one of the reasons why most contests don't want us sharing scores, because we don't want to create that extra
Influence.
bias.
Yeah, an element of influence as well. Again, Liria, this window I absolutely love. It brings warmth to my heart, this whole church, and again just that Final Fantasy world, that kick of nostalgia in your titties when you fall down it. It's amazing. Like I love it.
I'm just going to say, when that window was created, I was crying for the gems and crowns
I
and the
think a
nevers
lot of
that I was
people
using.
cried in Gems and Crowns for you when they look at that window, and I think the judges came in and went, just give that girl her money back, please just give it, like, we look at that window. No, obviously you did a great job, but yeah, I looked at that window and I just thought, hoo-wee, that's an expensive window. That should be an antique
Very
piece
expensive.
in itself, Was there
Yeah.
anything that got a kill switch in here? So was there anything that you built that didn't make it? Was there anything that you wanted to add that potentially didn't make it as well?
Yes.
100
The-
things.
Oh, I know she can talk for
Kick-
days, which is why I've asked it. I'm like, we're in the right place,
I really wish you hadn't asked that question. I would have loved to have put more detail in the street and in the Loveless Hotel to actually make it more reminiscent of, rather than just a transitional point.
Oh, like hustle and
But
bustle wise.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, trying to give life to such a big build is really hard. Because I kept looking at it and I'm going, even with all these house guests, it just feels empty. It feels lifeless. It
Yeah.
didn't feel soulless, but it felt lifeless. It felt empty, and that is not what I remember from the game.
Yeah.
The game had so much movement, so much life, and I must admit that when a couple of the judges went, oh my god, you have put this in here, which is signs that people do live here, that
Yes.
there is things in here, and I'm just like, that is such a nice thing, and I hadn't thought of it that way.
Like the
But
lights that are off in the windows that show that
Yeah.
somebody turned the lights off. Yeah.
Yeah, and just sort of like the little build-ups of dirt that I've just placed randomly, like it's because otherwise the streets were just like they've been freshly swept or they've been freshly laid, and it felt wrong. So I was like, no, you need to have a bit of debris and detritus everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the Terry Pratchett golem. But it's just little things like that. And when I was like, oh, I've still got like 5 more slots, it still feels empty. What can I add? I was like, you know what? In an abandoned alley, what else would you have? You'd have maybe somebody's abandoned clothes that have just blown off a washing line. You'd have a bottle of drink that somebody's finished and just left there. And it was just putting little things in there. And I thought, just do that. And it sort of made me go, yeah, that feels like there's a bit more life. There's a bit more detail there. But the big slot eaters were the church and the train. And I knew that they were going to be the 2 focal points. So they had to be built first. And then it was, how do I pull it all together around? I would have loved to have built the Shinra Tower. I would have loved to have built the Mako reactor better. I would have loved to have built the plate that gets dropped on the lower city, but I just don't have the slots. If you give me another 1,000,000 slots, I'll quite happily rebuild Midgar. But
only 1,000,000.
Think of the gold sink there, yeah.
I'd certainly be jumping into the IKEAs.
Yeah. Give me what you got.
Yeah, it'll be whatever free items I can fob off anyone, yeah. But likewise in return, I do repay when I'm given things. I sort of send gold, send mats, send gifts. I'll give them out. And I just think the sharing and almost the caring and camaraderie you get in the community is fantastic. So, and it's not something I'd ever swap in the world. I really enjoy the community for housing, and yeah, I'm just going to leave it there before I start chopping onions, as Cake says.
Oh, it's taken me a while to actually discuss the whole reaction, all of the emotions tied into it, because I'm quite an emotional, sensitive creature, believe it or not. And I hold on to things like that, and the emotions that go with it. I kid you not, I have been practicing all day, trying to say all of those things just in that section without crying, just with that overwhelming emotion that, like, just on the, when you look at the journey as a whole that me and Liria have come on, and Catch as well, but me and Liria are just as newer entries into these competition communities, and again, you know, just coming, and I couldn't have thought of anybody better to have, like, you know, to come second to either. I wouldn't have accepted anybody else, to be honest with. No, I'm joking. I'm quite humble about it. But again, you know, this build is so clean, so clean. And I could sit here for hours. I just, like, in all, and there's a few of them as well. But when you mentioned builders and preconceptions of builders and things like that, when that list is published, obviously a question for all of us, when the list is published and it's brought out, because I know that we as a coven wait on tender hooks for this list to be published, and we're we sort of wait night and day. Is there anything that you do after that list is published? Do you ever so to Span, would it be, do you ever sort of pre-go and visit these homes off stream, or is it kind of completely live in the moment?
It is completely live. I only go back to a house if I feel like I didn't give it a fair shake, or if they let me know that I missed something. I don't go back and second guess my scores either.
Okay. See, again, that'd be something I'd get down, and then I'd be like, well, I've judged this here, but I know that this one could potentially have a higher score than that one, so I need to go back and revisit that. In my head, that's why I'd be going around in circles.
There was one in particular this last round that I got frustrated because of the parkour in it, and I went back to it later, kind of with a fresh set of eyes, because I didn't want that frustration to affect the score.
Yeah.
And while on the one hand, if I'm frustrated, that is a scoring issue, but part of it was actually my fault. I tend to tour homes with no UI and in first person. And sometimes I miss interactable doors because so many people now turn off their interactions.
Yeah.
that I missed a gate that you could go through, and it's easy to miss a door.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I will miss a part of a build, but I knew that there was more because of their write-up, and I couldn't find it, and I was frustrated. And then there was parkour in it, and I wanted to make sure that I gave it a fair shake. So I went back to that one off stream. And then, of course, anybody who reaches out to me and says, hey, you kind of missed half the build because you didn't go through the tapestry. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go back. So
Sneaky tapestries.
Beryl's
Yep.
like, well, we wouldn't turn them off if people would leave our lights alone.
yeah, exactly. And no,
Actually
I'm
true.
fine with people turning them off. It throws me now when they're on, because I'll miss that I can open a gate because I'm in first person and I'm
Yes.
in no UI, so there's no pop-up to open the door or the gate or whatever. And yeah, oops. So, and then one in particular reached out to me after this last build. It was actually the one with that I mentioned earlier with the Jawa and the Star Wars build. And in the write-up they had said look up. And I had looked up and I had seen like a jet fighter or whatever. Like, oh, that's really cool. And then I left and they're like, you didn't look up. I said, but I did. They're like, you didn't look up over there.
Oh no.
Oh,
That was
it
the one with the Death
whole
Star.
Death Star that you missed.
I totally missed the Death Star.
Oh, I
Oh,
was
no.
howling. I was just like, oh, because I remember I think I must have seen it in another stream, but, and again, it's just, I get a perspective whenever something like that happens, and I'm like, right, okay, I get an idea of people, you know, their natural field of view and the way that they view things and that natural organic sort of looking around a build. And I kind of try and imitate it as well whenever I'm walking around like this. And then obviously when we had a joke in stream about I needed to make my dragon bigger because you didn't
Yes, I
look.
missed it.
You just
I missed
I
the
think Span
dragon.
just has a problem with looking up, to be honest with you. It's not, it's okay. Just don't worry about it. But yeah, I was like, noted, make dragon bigger, put it on the floor maybe. I should have brought him down actually. He's quite fun.
Put an arrow.
And us from a coven point of view, Liria and Catch, what do we do? I'm going to let you explain that just to give my voice a rest for 2 seconds.
I normally get sent parkouring around everybody's build to make check it's tight and tidy and I can't get out.
Nightmare. I
Liria's the hole
apologise.
checker.
I apologise to any builders that we cause offence to. It's just what we do, okay? Like, we send Liria in and we're like, because at the end of I know it sounds really like slightly a bit competition-y as well. I'm quite competitive in just my style anyway, and you know, we all enter these things as a competition. So I'm like, Liria, find a hole, go. Like, Catch, find something, go. And we start looking around. Obviously, we absolutely complement builds where, you know, we go into these builds and they blow us away. But it's something that we just do as a coven, and we draw things like inspiration. We have a look around and we have a look at potentially who we're up against as well. I think that's what everybody does. It's like, who's to the left of me, who's to the right of me, and as much as we draw inspiration from these things, we realise that those are our competitors as well. And we kind of do like a short list. So we're like, have we got any favourites? We like pick 2 or 3 favourites. Is there anybody that you think, oh, like I'm a bit worried? Mine, apart from Liria's, was going to be the Dark Souls build, which came 3rd, and I had a little streak in me that when I saw that one in 3rd place, I was like, okay, I'm not getting my pink torch bug now. I'll be fine. And I was happy because I was just like, that build would, for me, from a cinematic point of view and a visual standpoint, was absolutely incredible. For bringing a Dark Souls world to ESO. And I was like, right, okay. And then obviously the rest was history that we've just told. I love it, I think. Have you got any, I know we've digressed slightly, but we do go and visit each of the houses on the list on EU and NA. So the first thing I did, I'll be completely honest, is I saw there was a couple of people with Ghibli builds, and my brain wouldn't have let me go to sleep unless I went over and had a look at those builds and how they were going to. I was like, bitch, who's done Spirited Away? Like, I was sweating. I was like, oh God, literally logged into my NA
when
character.
you walked into chat.
I came into chat 'cause I think they'd already started going, and I was in the middle of something, and I joined them later on, and I went, I'm sorry, we're going to NA right now. Pack your shit up. Don't stop what you're doing. I don't care how far you are on that list. We're going and seeing the Spirited Away build. I need to have a look at it. So, because one of the things that I asked, I know I'm veering off, but one of the things that I asked was, in the beginning, I asked it to Liria and Catch while we were still building the houses, and I was already done, and I went, do you think that it's better to kind of put it out in the world and have it released, on EHT home tours, or do people in competition building keep it close to the chests until release day and then they put it out in the world, blah blah blah? And obviously Catch and Liria, from their point of view, I think they preferred to keep them close to the chests. I know
keep it close.
Yeah, I know a lot of people did. And I sat there and I was like, I weighed up my chances of potentially placing and the fear of somebody copying a build or me having to explain my build that could potentially have been accused of copying somebody else. That was my biggest fear, which is one of the reasons my build was released quite early. Like, as soon as I'd made that decision, I was like, no, I need to put it out there, because if I don't place, at least it's out there, and then then nobody can say that. I know there was a lot of like conversations in the community a few months ago about like just people ripping off builds, copy and pasting stuff, and putting it out to other places. I've not seen it personally, but I was just sort of like reading the conversations around it, and I thought, could you imagine if I kept it close to my chest and somebody snuck in and then like recreated it? And I have like overthinking brain as well, so there's literally like a little goblin in my head that says that that's going to happen. And I'm like, right, we need to fix this, we need to just put it out in the world, and then I'd be like, mine's out first, I did it, that's mine. You can't copy me now. So when I saw that, I had to run over again. That I think I've spoke to that builder as well in DMs, because they reached out to me because I think there was like a comparison stream somewhere or conversation with all three Ghibli builds in it, and I said, you did a fantastic job. It was really neat. I really loved the way that they did it. It was in Kelsaroon, I think it was. And I was like, that's a nice, bathhouse build. That was nice and neat, and I really enjoyed visiting. But I kind of then took a breath and I was like, right, okay, I can breathe a bit. Not out of like, oh, mine's better, but it was more just like, okay, there's no dragon in it, I've not copied anybody, I've not ripped anything off, there's going to be no arguments, there's going to be no conflict, I'm going to be fine, there's no drama, everything's great. So we do hop around a bit, and we go and scope out the competition quite a lot. Are you all right?
I'll be honest, when the list first comes out, I just figure out how many houses there are so I can figure out how long it's going to take me to stream it. I feel like the expectation of housers is high when it comes to judging. You guys have put your heart and soul, like I said, for hundreds of hours into a house, and then I have to tour 80 houses on stream in a short period of time, which means I can only spend 10 to 20 minutes in each one. And I can tell you, just from the last two houses we've been to, I've noticed things that I did not notice when I judged them. And that's just a matter of time, honestly, to be able to wander around. And I've said several times, I'm like, if I spent more time in this house, I know I would find more details that I've missed, because you can just tell.
Yeah, because you just sort of go over, you go over things a bit more, and you've not got like this imaginary clock ticking in the background in your head, like, well, we've got this whole list here, if you spend 4 hours
I've got this whole list, I have ad breaks, I have chat that I want to talk to in between houses.
Yes.
And so I average about 4 houses an hour, and when 80 houses are in a list, that's 20 hours, and I stream 6 hours a day. That's an entire week of my stream almost. And so that's usually my first thought but I don't preview any of them. And the other thing about the list that I wanted to point out is when it's such an EU heavy housing contest like Other Worlds was, sometimes there are language barriers that we can get caught up in, especially when there are those novels attached where I'm like, we have a language barrier and a universe I'm not familiar with. I'm not 100% sure what's being said.
Yeah, double whammy.
Yeah.
Do you have to get out Google Translate and stuff?
No, they're always in English. It's just sometimes a difficult read if English isn't the first language.
Yeah, true. I think because
although their English is way better than my German or.
I speak English and bad English. Honestly, that is it. They're the two that and cake. To be honest, that's a language in itself. So I've not got any time to learn other languages. Unfortunately, it's just not in my brainstem. Also, before we depart here and go over to see Katchlight's house, Liria, on reflecting, just on your build in general, how you feeling? And are there any future plans that prick up your ears? Like, have you seen any sort of like bits and pieces? Have you kind of gone, ooh, where can we find you in 2025?
I'm really happy with this build. It will be like most of my other builds, an eternal milestone in my journey that is housing. It's very rare that I will ever revisit or rip down a build unless I feel I absolutely have to, and then it's a case of hello EHT, please save it so I don't have to rebuild it. Things like that. But as for where I will be in the next year in 2025, which is only 10 odd days
round the
away.
corner.
It's crazy.
Where's the year gone? Anyway, there's a few sort of ideas that are prickling in my head. You mentioned the sort of the theme steampunk before. As soon as I saw that, I was like, you could go to the Dune universe and do like the House of Atreides and things like that, because that leans itself a little bit to steampunk. And one of the builds in this competition actually was already leading me down that housing hole before the steampunk came through. And I'm like, even if it isn't giving you that as a theme for one of the competitions, there were lots of things in some of the builds going, I could do that kind of build. I could put my twist on it and things like that. So there's certainly a few cogs turning. As to where they turn, we shall see. I still have millions of builds to finish, just finding the time for it.
Don't we all?
All the time. So I've got a couple more questions before we leave. Have you got any favourite? I mean, this goes out to Span as well. If you've got any, are there any favourite furnishing plans you use everywhere? Have you got like a saving grace in? But I know what my answer is straight off the bat: hedges and ginkgos. That is the answer to hiding a world of sins, my friends. Take it, note it down. Jot hedges and ginkgos. You can cover everything with that. You'll notice in my builds there's quite a few. Like, you can just go around and be like, oh yeah, look, there's a hedge. Kate was right.
Not really.
You haven't got a sin hider or anything, Liria? No, because Liria doesn't have any sins. She's too neat. That's why. First place.
God, I have sins. I have sins. They're just going to stay hidden. That's a conversation for another stream. Anyway, and much later. I don't tend to get fixated on I will use this, I will use that. I will use whatever I feel fits the image that is in my head or the image that I'm looking at if I'm having to recreate something from a world. I will admit that I have found I like plants
Mhm.
and landscaping to make it feel chaos but also ordered.
Yes.
So I would say plants are probably my go-to, and rocks, but there's no rocks in this build.
There's
Well,
nothing
there
like
is
a good
one, but
rock,
it's
yeah.
a limestone shelf. It doesn't count.
Catch, you got any? Span?
Mm-mm.
Catch is like, no.
No. I've tried to do this thing in my building journey where I don't repeat myself. So I try to always do something that is something that I personally haven't done before, because I feel that it's helping me grow and get better at building instead of just building the same style over and over. I'm trying to, expand. So one house used a lot of plants, and I love plants. So when I hit ground zero and there was like just 2 trees in the whole build, I was like, no, but no plants. So yeah, I try to not repeat myself when I build, purely to challenge myself, not because I'm trying to not fall into a box, or I couldn't really care if people think I've fallen into a box, but it's just for me so that I keep growing.
It makes sense.
I think there are a few furnishing items that you see everywhere, and they are just super handy to have in your arsenal, like those Deadland wall lights. The Red Garden Closure Arch is one that's an oldie but goodie. It used to be our only like curved wall. It used to be the only thing we had. The tonal arcs. Those are a favorite as well.
Oh, are those the ones used in that guts build?
Yes.
Oh, those are amazing. I don't know whether you've seen that Span. It's an absolutely fantastic
I don't think
build.
so.
What a build. Wow.
And it's just a load of those tonal arcs that create these big giant, like, and then there's like heads, and it's very futuristic-y.
It's amazing.
Really strange. But yeah, if you go and visit it, is it
Was
EU
that a
or
Russian
NA?
Asgard one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a few housing items that are just really, really versatile.
Yes.
And you can see them used 100 different ways in different types of builds. And those are I like those little bread and butter pieces.
Is there anything we don't have available that anybody would like? I'm not experienced enough to answer this, to be fair, because I'm just happy with the selection that we have on offer, and I get quite overwhelmed with that. But are there any furnishings that aren't available that you wish, like, oh, can you just make that, Zos? Like, can we just do this?
Oh, my friend, how much time you got?
Yeah, I got loads of time. It's all here. It's if you could narrow it down to like, well, if there's low, because I don't know how many there are. If you could narrow it down to maybe 3, 5, to like, well, I've got this, I've got that.
I think the list
for
is
me, there's-
shorter if
there's-
we
there's
list what we
two-
have.
Yeah, for me, there's 2 things specifically that every time I'm building any sort of structure, I'm like, oh, damn, it would be really nice. And that's a couple more options for roofing.
Yeah.
And probably different sized panes of glass that don't have these crazy big edges. So like now we have the dwarven windows, but they have these really heavy framing, which makes it difficult to hide. So for me, those are 2 things would be top of my list. There's a couple more options for roofing, and some panes of just plain glass that we can make our own interesting windows out of. That's probably my top 2.
Bowls of water that don't have spikes.
Oh yes, bowls of water.
Amen.
The list goes on.
And a preach. I mean that Zerith Var furnishing that you can get is crazy. I'm obsessed with it at the moment, and my mind focuses on that quite a lot. But yeah, large things like that. Anything else?
I mean, they have given us some amazing stuff over the years. I don't know when you guys
100%.
started housing, but when I first started, it was base game stuff.
Yeah.
Vardenfell had just come out, so the Vardenfell furnishings, and that was pretty much it. So like we didn't have any house guests or companions or pets and mounts, but we didn't have any pathing capabilities. Very little things that offered any kind of movement. So we had the pets would move, but they were, in their little spot.
Yeah.
And then we had the clothier sells the bush that has the butterflies. So that's always nice for adding some movement. But we didn't have the ginkgo tree that had the little petals that fell or any swaying trees, or it was really, really difficult to create movement in a home. And like you said, that helps make it look lived in. And so the amount that housing has grown just in the past 5 years is astronomical.
I was just gonna say how has it kind of evolved over the years and the changes, and has it got harder, your job as a judge as well, whenever you're called in to judge a competition? Like, how's the growth been over the years? Like you said,
I
it's been
think
very
the mental
basic.
catalog of furnishing items, like thank goodness I have chat that will tell me what an item is and where it comes from, because there's just so many items now that I almost feel like you'd have to be a dedicated houser to have them memorized. Because every time we get a new zone, it's 100 new furnishings plus achievement items,
Yeah.
plus antiquities, plus Crown Store stuff. Is this only available in Crown Store packs? Was it available through Crown Crates? Was it a la carte?
There's a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah.
It overwhelms me. I sort of lean into Catch and Liria more for that, and I'm just like, give me the lowdown, just tell it me in a TLDR kind of way, and they're like, loads of furnishing, loads of shit, you're gonna be overwhelmed, see you later, bye. And I'm like, okay, right, fine. I'm preparing.
Well, and then the luxury furniture has a new item every week, like
yeah, and that kind of goes on, and like we all sit around and wait for the luxury furniture, and again we crying broke on a Saturday morning when over coffee quite a lot. It's great. I love it. I love our coven as well. Shall we port over to Catchlight's build?
Yes.
Right, Span, just breathe, okay? We're gonna go and do a bit of jumping, right? So we're just gonna take a deep breath in and a deep breath out.
No, actually, Catchlight warned me about theirs, and I didn't have any trouble with it. It was not bad. I probably will today now that I've said that, but
hers were
So
quite
I didn't
big.
struggle.
I suck at poker. Like, I suck hard at it. But this was such an integral part of the game that I just had to have it in. And I was like, oh, God, this is... what have I done? So I understand you. Like, the amount of times I bitch at Liria that I cannot jump up a thing.
Well, I tell the story about one housing competition. It was one more housing, and it was a kill build. It was a kill house. It was
Or like
it
a
was
trap house.
Yeah, it was a trap house. It was brilliant. You walk to this one area and there were slaughterfish, and so you had to get past the slaughterfish to go see the next part. And then it was like a jumping puzzle, and then it went on. And after like 25 minutes, when I probably only seen the first 150 item slots, like I can't spend any more time in this house. I'm gonna have to just judge it based on what I've seen, which was
Oh, no.
crushing. Right? Somebody put all this time and effort into it, but I couldn't get through it, not in the time allotted. Like I had over 100 houses to tour on that in that contest. Like I cannot spend an hour in one house. Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
No,
And I always say
that's
this.
completely fair. That's completely fair.
As a guild master with like 500 guildies, now as a streamer with a bunch of viewers, I always go, if every single thing was this length of time, could I do it?
Yeah.
If every viewer DM'd me and wanted to have a conversation, if every guildie in my guild required hand-holding to sell items, could I do it? And if the answer is no, I have to make some decisions. And it was one of those where I'm like, okay, I'm 25 minutes in and I've easily got another half hour before I can get through this house. I just can't. And that's when I kind of wish they said, hey, try this, but if you need to, use the plank on the side to get past it. Just give me a plank.
Yeah, give me a ladder.
Then I can at least see your build.
Yeah.
If I can't get through your build and can't see it, I can't judge it.
So look,
Yeah, I felt really bad for that one. I just couldn't.
I've got to do it in third person. Watch me not do it now. I've come in.
And the other thing with jumping puzzles is I tend to go RP walk.
Yeah.
So I have to remember not to RP walk to do the jumping puzzles.
So I already have Dark Souls PTSD, and Catch only reinforced that by building these wicked planks and stuff. anything like this, I'm like a chicken on laminate. I am the most uncoordinated person you will ever see in your life. There is a reason I don't parkour. In real life, I struggle to put one foot in front of the other without tripping over my own feet. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm so clumsy. But yes, anyway, it's not about me. Catch. Can you?
Yeah, my goal with this was not. I wanted it to feel like an adventure, but I didn't want it to be frustrating because I also am not good at the parkouring thing. So I just wanted it to feel like it was just to immerse you in another game. That was the idea, not to make it frustrating.
And again, with pathing, I know that we had a conversation earlier about it, and just the little candle hints and stuff to let you know, oh right, okay, this is where you're going, and hopefully nobody veers off track unless you're Liria. There's an exception.
Thanks.
I do want to offer a word of caution. Sometimes when a build is mostly a puzzle, I think it's easy for me especially, I'm guessing other judges, to focus on how to get through the puzzle and to forget to stop to look at the details of the build.
That makes sense.
You don't want to be judged on the puzzle. You want to be judged on your housing. At least that's my assumption.
Yeah. I don't do puzzle builds.
There were a couple this time around where I did go back after stream because I'm like, I didn't give that build a fair shake because I was so focused on, okay, how do I get out?
Yeah.
Where's the exit? Where's the next little hidden piece? And instead of taking in each portion of the puzzle.
Well, I did a puzzle build. So I've got it out of my system. It's as far as it goes. I've done a thing I didn't do before, which is always my goal.
I'll never do one. You'll never. The day that Cake builds parkour, she has been kidnapped and held, and you must free her. That is not the Cake way. Okay, parkour and puzzles. I genuinely think that anything out of basic jumping onto a platform should be in a whole area of itself. But that's me being like really, really like, hey, no.
I think this one really, really did a good job of, here's a jumping puzzle, period.
Yeah.
Not like, I'm going to try to make sure that nobody can get through it.
Yeah.
That was not the goal at all.
Exactly.
It was actually more from a perspective of I kind of wanted to, aside from the fact that these jars are so integral in the they're a very, very big part of the DLC for this game. I kind of wanted to just do something interesting and different with the pathing for a change, you know? And the two of them kind of married together, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was never meant to be a frustrating thing, and I think everybody managed okay.
Yeah, you came into my chat and you're like, I'm sorry, Span, there's jumping in mine. And I'm like,
please don't hate me.
Like Katchlight, you know,
when
when
we
we
to make it easy.
when we talked earlier about seeing names on builds and then, you know, just coming in and having to jump around. -2 points. Okay, thank you.
Minus 20 points.
Yeah.
curious about something now.
Yeah.
Did you give us? Yep, you did give us a way to get out.
Yes.
See, this is brownie points for me.
There you go. She gave you stairs, you know, our kind cat.
You didn't make me go back to the beginning.
No, that's gross.
Exactly.
It's really mean.
Liria's just sitting having a brew.
I finally failed.
Didn't you already get across?
I did. I went back just to
She's
see if you
testing
could get out of the
herself.
pit. And then I went to try to go across again and I failed.
And again, just this scene in general, you know, if you watch like the Elden Ring trailer or anything like that, you see this large jar room, and if you've ever played the just Elden Ring itself without the DLC, Alexander was like a big pot jar. He was mega cool. I loved him. He was great. And then later on down the line, you find out where these weird jars have come from, and they're actually stuffed with people, which is what the red goo is at the beginning, pouring out of one. And they did some gross things on some villagers, and they amalgamated them because the Dark Souls world is full of sunshine and rainbows, guys, you know. But this was, to see this, I saw it in bits, and then there's a certain point where I go, I'm not visiting until you finish now. Like I'll come at a certain point and then I stop visiting and seeing how you are. And then when I came in here for the first time, I'm just like, look, just look. It's beautiful. And again, the vibe and the ruins and just the way that it is. And again, a little bit of jumping and stuff, and it feels like I've played in a Dark Souls game, just jumping to get to here, you know, in here. Like the jumping in ESO's hard enough.
I do have to ask about this little thing with the Breton statue and the horns right before the boss area.
Oh yeah,
What
so
is
this is
this?
called a Stake of Marika, and it's a co-op summon, so you can get people to come and help you fight bosses.
Okay.
And it's again one of those like prominent shapes that you see all over the world. There was a few things I wanted to pull through. The Grace was one of them. The little bits of parkour and the things trying to kill you were other things, and the Stake of Marika was one. I was like, I have to find a way to get that in here.
Is this like a save point?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's called.
I've watched a little bit. I haven't played, but I've watched a little bit. Okay.
So Elden Ring, the lore is, I mean, I listen to that regularly on YouTube. I love it. I'm completely obsessed. I know that the changing lights changed the fog on this door, didn't it? This door didn't used to be black.
No, so in game these boss doors are this sort of goldy green color, and I had originally had carpets sunk here. So the door was a goldy green color with this weird, bluey overtone. It was really cool. But
So cool.
once they did the update, the carpets, I couldn't immerse them from both sides. So they were immersed. So I had a thing, and then when you looked from both sides, it looked great. And then when they did the update, it's almost like the water was more shallow, and I couldn't hide the carpets anymore. So I had to go back to the plain black door, which is fine because it creates quite a nice contrast in here, but it wasn't what I originally wanted. But
Yeah, so Souls games are usually, you've got this, before you fight a boss, you've got this like mist wall, like fog wall that you've got to walk through. It's very prominent in Souls games, and things like that. And then Stake America's where you like kind of like, just give me friends. I need friends to help me because this boss is too hard. And Melania kicked people's asses in this game. She was unforgiving. She was brutal. And then she had a second phase that looked like this. The cutscenes for it, again, readily available wherever. You can just type them in. The cutscenes for her are fantastic. And the way that she was put together. And then again, the way that Catch recreated her as well. And finally settled on ivory instead of bread. Absolutely fantastic. And you will Bread Melania is, we're gonna bury her. But you wanted this 360 view, didn't you? How challenging was that as a builder?
I nearly went blind with this cobble. So she was supposed to be a 360 view, but the space that I ended up with here was slightly more shallow than I wanted. So I had to move her back a bit further than was, initially planned, but it's still a cobble that looks good from no matter which angle you're at, which is part of the challenge. I think it turned out quite well. I don't know if anybody could have gotten her closer to how she looks in ESO.
This was another one of those where I'm like, okay, I'm not familiar, chat. How did Katchlight do? And they're like, this is spot on.
Oh, yay.
Span didn't judge you, the chat did. Catch, thank the chat, please.
Thanks, chat.
But this was incredible. Was there anything in here that you had to kind of kill switch on? Was there anything that you had to take out, make some choices, or that was part of the original, imagination design that you'd thought of?
Yeah, there's plenty. This room was planned to be a lot larger than it is now because the boss room itself is quite a lot larger, but it ended up feeling very flat. So I essentially gave up more floor space for more depth in the end to make the backdrop better. It was just looking very flat. And the lighting in here took me almost as long as Melania did. This was difficult getting the lighting in here right. So yeah, I gave up a lot of room in here to have the backdrop be a little better than it was initially.
I can't believe you've done it with the slot limit. Like, again, there's so much storytelling for, just everybody, even if you don't know this world, just on, again, like with Lyria's, just on like a structural level and a technicality level is absolutely incredible. And it goes to show, like, lighting, mood and ambience can be a lot in a build, because if you've captivated the judge, then they might not know any, like, where your sins are and stuff, because they're like, oh my god, the ambience in here is beautiful, I can't see anything. Like, so,
or you do see it but you forgive it because the rest
Yeah.
of the build is impressive.
You're still immersed, and this is tingling with the like the spotlights down and the bit of like mist and stuff. Did you have
You're
to
waiting for the
build-
cutscene to start, right?
Yeah, 100%. And she's gonna absolutely kick your ass. How much of the build was built around her, or did you kind of, like, again, like we asked with Liria, did you sort of pick a couple of pieces out of that world, and how hard was it to pick them pieces out of such a large world as well? Like, was there any reason in particular you chose these, or did you have a few ideas bouncing around?
So for me, visually doing the fight in Elden Ring with Melania was just artistically inspiring. It's a very, very sad story as well, so it kind of tugs on the heartstrings, if you know the story. And it was just so beautiful and so inspiring, purely from an aesthetic, that I wanted to do it since the beginning. But having said that, I wanted to do 1,000 things from Elden Ring. However, the difficulty we ran into, and it's something Span touched on earlier, was trying to build things like Rivendell. And where you lose the immersion is actually in the scale of the build. And with Elden Ring, the scale of the things, like, imagine trying to build an Urge tree. Like you'd never be able to. You'd never be able to do it to a point where it feels legitimate and like a true recreation of the world. So I had so many dreams about recreating things from that world, and everything had to get scaled down immensely.
Yeah.
Because I had to settle on spaces that were a little more enclosed, like the jails where you found the jars, the corridors that lead up to the boss fights, things like that. There is so many things I would have loved to have done. So many things. It's such an inspiring, like, artistically inspiring space to go play in those games.
100%. Massive we post quite a lot of like Soulsborne stuff, and the art is just incredible. Like, you can draw so much inspiration just from, like, the landscaping, the architecture. Like, just a quick Google away, guys, as well.
The one that I would die to build, but again, we just cannot build on that scale because of slot restrictions, is something like the Eternal Cities with the night skies.
Oh my god!
I'd give my right arm to, not that I could build it then, but to be able to build things like that on that scale would have made me so happy. With Melania, I would have loved to have done like the hailing tree, the whole tree, instead of just having the little roots peeping down here as a nod.
Oh, we could have had the snowmen people with the trumpets as well.
Yeah.
Little
snowmen people.
honestly, there's so many. There's just some, like, the best play, honestly, Span, if you wanted to get up on your knowledge, just go and watch Carbot animations on Elden Ring.
Oh, and they're so funny.
They're so funny. They're like 5-10 minute
Wow.
videos. Wow. So
Wow.
and because we love and so he walks into somewhere and he goes, wow, and it's all drawn like a 5-year-old, like these very simplistic
So great.
drawings. It's live Carbot animations. I regularly go
Actually,
there.
the only one Span needs to go and watch to understand what Elden Ring is like is the first Carbot animation one, where everything kills him.
Yeah.
It's the only one you need to watch.
No, the song as well. The 2 songs where you go to the Snow People,
know.
and then the other one where it's the Take on Me but Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Them two absolutely
they're
bring
great.
warmth to my heart. And so every time this little person goes somewhere, he's like, wow. So whenever we come into any builds that we like, we always go,
We go,
wow, wow. So there's like 4 of us, we're just like little people that just like, oh, wow, wow, wow. For about
So
5 minutes.
Melania nearly didn't have feet. It was literally the last thing I added in this build. It was the last thing. I had 20 slots, and I was like, I think she just, and everybody, I was like, guys, please, like, I need help. And most of the feedback that I was getting was just hide the feet.
Just put a bush on it, you'll be fine. I obviously, given my earlier answer, mine was just put a hedge on her, she'll be all right. She'll be fine. You know, just a creeping hedge, a bit of ivy somewhere. You know, you'll be all right.
Yeah, so she nearly just had like
stumps.
I was like, oh, she just said, like, I don't know if I can release this build into the wild if she just has stumps.
Just bless her
Oh,
stumps.
She's made out of bread and she doesn't have feet. So what have I done?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh my god. So this, I actually think from a Katchlight point of view as well. So since the beginning that I've had the pleasure of knowing you, you've always built on a very large scale. You've always had like a very big structure or focal point or things like that, and then some like little things. How was it going from building really, really big structures to building a very intricate cobble like this? Because I know that I've seen a couple of other intricate ones from you, but do you think in the relation of your housing journey, where was this on the scale of difficulty for, like, you know, just that I look at it and I just think, oh my god, no, I don't have the patience.
So from a sculptural perspective, I think humanoid shapes are definitely the hardest, because you're always going to get that strange little bit of uncanny valley. Even to me, Melania still has a little bit of that uncanny valley, but I'll keep working on her. So sculpturally, this is definitely the smallest humanoid, because as you know, I created the Valkyrie that's sitting at
Yes, my favorite.
the
One of my
gatehouse.
favorites. One of my favorites.
And my first competition ever, which was Eden, I created that giant Gaia type statue. That was like 5 years ago. So yes, cobbling, especially a humanoid form on such a small scale. I'm not a stranger to small cobbles at all, but the shape of her, I literally nearly went blind trying to make this shape. I was like, my eyes were crossing over each other, and I was like, I don't know if I have to look at this anymore. I'm just gonna jump off a bridge. She went through so many iterations, and the proportions, and she needed the pieces of armor, and we only have so many things that you can use for them. And then she didn't have feet, and then the hair was weird, and then she didn't have hair, and then she was bald, and then she was made out of bread, and then she had feathers on her head, and it's been all over the place. Difficulty-wise, she's definitely right up there for me.
Yeah, sort of top 3, top 5.
Yeah, probably. The other one that was up there was the ambulance.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Because the ambulance was color, size. You know, it wasn't just cobble a car out of metal pieces. It needed to be white. It needed to have but it was a very, very difficult cobble. It took me forever. She was harder than that, but it's just the shape.
Okay. Okay.
Her legs were too short at one point. Then it looked like, I don't know, one hip was dislocated. It was a very difficult cobble, but she turned out okay, and I'll keep I'll keep playing.
I can imagine. And I know that, I think, Span, you judged the Gold Road Visions housing contest. So you're not a stranger to a Catchlight build.
No.
How, from a judging perspective, has it been to judge multiple Catchlight builds as well? Because I think Catchlight has always placed in competitions. I don't think you've ever not placed Catch, am I right? You've always sort of got a sort of spot somewhere. In the other worlds, Catchlight placed fourth in the sort of overall, the bigger homes, the people that were slightly more advanced and have been doing it a lot longer. Catch is not a beginner. Okay, she's been doing this for ages. Don't let her sneak into any of those categories. But how, from a judging point of view, has Catchlight's development been really? Have you noticed, like, the growth? Do you enjoy? I'm not going to know that. In fact, that doesn't sound right, because it'd be like, no, I don't enjoy going to Catchlight builds. She makes me jump. How dare she?
So you're putting me on the spot. Because, confession time, I recognize Catchlight's name, and I know that I've been impressed with their builds. However, when each competition is like 100 houses, I can't say, well, I remember Catchlight did this in this contest and this in this contest. I don't remember that. I think if Catchlight told me, well, that my house was this one, I might have a chance of remembering it. But honestly, 100 houses in the course of 3 days,
I imagine.
I have no clue. If you took me back there, I'd be like, oh yeah, and I remember I liked this part. But yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, like remembering faces instead of names. I just don't.
Catchlight always has kittens whenever you visit any of her builds, even a few years later on, and things like that. We grab snacks and popcorn, and we make a point of sort of getting together and being like, right, okay, we are ready for Span feedback. And then we usually go a bit more chilled out if we watch somebody like Ree, because again, she spends hours. I sit there and I'm like, I don't know how she finds the time to talk about half of the stuff she talks about, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like, again, we sit there and we listen to stories, and then we listen to feedback from, anything that Span wishes to offload any of her wisdom onto us, and we just sit there with notepads and popcorn,
Which
and
we
things
do
like
appreciate,
that.
man. Like the critical feedback. I know not everybody's very good with it, but I think I can at least speak personally. I enjoy the critical feedback, because that's how I grow. You're a judge who has seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of houses. So I want to know what you think. I want to know if there's pain points, things like if you're doing a jumping puzzle, just make sure that it's not so all encompassing that the judges don't notice the build.
Right.
Things like that are really, like, you didn't, I think you could have done something better here. Or you maybe personally think you could have done something better there. Like, I appreciate that. I do very well with critical feedback.
Thank you. And it's difficult too, because you're like, how much feedback do I give? And so sometimes it's more stream of consciousness. Like, okay, over here was great. This piece over here, I can see what they were trying to do, but I don't think it quite worked. And I try to leave it kind of at that as like the worst thing I say. And every so often I'll use the wrong word or whatever. And especially again, when you're judging an EU heavy contest, sometimes they'll go by the Google definition of a word versus my more colloquial version. And that can cause some confusion as well. But so I need to work on that, using simpler words when I'm giving criticism, so that nothing gets
lost in translation.
Correct. Yeah. So, but I do try to point out, okay, this is why it's not getting top marks, or this is where I think this build could improve. Like, and I try to use it as a teachable moment for stream too, like, because all my contests are done on stream. So I'll say, okay, this one was a great building cobble, but it was really lacking in the details. I think the best builds are kind of a marriage between the two. Like you were talking about, or like Liria was, sorry, I'm not great with voices yet, but in Liria's build, you have this huge town, but attention to the liquor bottle in the corner and the lights in the windows and the pathing of the companions. So you don't feel like there's just big empty space. And I think that's important. If you're going to get if you're going to place in a contest, I think that's important to point out.
Yeah, I'm sure it's. I mean, I said to the Coven girls a week or two back, but I said like the bar of housing, even if I take from the first competition that I entered, which was OMH 5 years ago, it was in 2020 or 2021.
Mm-hmm.
It just goes up every year.
Yeah.
Every year, it feels like it's been raised to the nth degree. People are so incredible, so creative. They give us new furnishings to play with.
Mm-hmm.
People figure out new ways to use old furnishings. It's the bar is climbing every single year, and it's
Absolutely.
for me, love it, because
Mhm.
that's what pushes your own inventiveness. You know,
Right.
is that bar that's constantly being raised, looking up to builders like Totes and Futurko and Russian Asgard, all these people that I think are so
Yes.
incredibly inventive and creative. It's just, yeah, it gets harder every year if you want to compete.
100%.
What is something that you guys look for in a build when you're looking at favorites? What are things that impress you guys?
Oh,
That's a good one.
that is a
For
good
me, the
one.
first thing is actually how it feels.
Yeah,
Okay.
like the ambience,
Like the
just-
visceral reaction when you first walk in?
Yeah, so without picking out anything specific just yet, before you've like really taken it in, just like immediately, does it have me hooked?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Not even sure why, but does it have me hooked?
Okay.
immersion, and I think again, like just feeding off the back of that, just the general mood of something. I really like it when people take a space and I don't even recognize it.
Mhm.
And you could have just like put a garden there or things like that, but the way that some of these builders utilize these spaces and completely just turn it on its head, I love that. I love, like, at the moment there's been quite a few townscapes that have captured me. I've really enjoyed the Christmas houses that have been submitted. That's something that I'm not like massively confident in building and stuff, so I really like visiting the festive houses to see what again, you know, people do remarkable things, and it's sort of, you've got to sort of pull me in, as Liria says as well, as Catch says, you know, do I get into your world? And where I find inspiration is with like Lilithnia's builds and DJ Freed, and the way that they just build on these scales and think completely outside of the box. And there was like the Pumpkin House that was published somewhere and for Halloween, and that was absolutely incredible to go and stand in there, and it was like just that whole vibe of it, and you kind of get it, you know, when you walk in, and it's just like, oh, you know, and if it pricks my ears up and I get that intrigue, which is usually, I think, mainly lighting and transformation of just that initial space. And then it's like, that's your first, you know, like in a job interview where they say, you know, you've got within the first sort of 5 seconds, that job interviewer kind of gets a general feel for you of how you present yourself. I think you've got 10 seconds to sort of make your mark. Similar thing, I applied to this, and I was like, I've got to be able to want people to go one step further within those first, you know, in a build. It wouldn't be 10 seconds, it'd probably be more like 3 to 5 seconds. So you know, in Catchlight's build, you're in a hole, you look like you're just going to crawl out of a drain pipe. You want to walk forward because you don't want to be in a drain pipe. You know, you want to go and explore. And again, with Lyria's, there's a set of stairs, and you know, your natural reaction as a person, let's just go up them stairs, let's go and be inquisitive, let's go find out. Does it pull you in that way? And I think there was quite a few builds that did that this year. I was so impressed going and visiting them, and again, you know, like just that evolution. I've only had the joy of being able to visit people's homes for probably about a year, so I'm quite new to it all, and I used to just hang on Catchlight's coattails whenever she entered a competition. And she was like, oh, you know, I've entered this. Can you come and have a look at my house? And I genuinely, in the beginning, when I first met Katchlight as well, I didn't really know like the scope of what she did and the like people, you know, outside of the coven and other people in the housing community. Obviously, you know, they look at her builds and some like she inspires people, and now Liria gets added to that list, and you know, I hope eventually I get added to that list, and it's it's great. And I know I've completely digressed on what we were talking about, but I find it so amazing. I'm stood here and I'm looking at this bloody freaking cobble and I'm just in awe of it. Sorry.
So you talked about the kind of first impression and how it made you feel. What about sound effects and music? I noticed none of you used music boxes. Was that an intentional choice? Do you usually use music boxes?
For me, it always depends on how I want the build to be. For me, in Final Fantasy, ESO has yet to release a music box that just stirs up that feeling of the game. It's not really given me anything. I have used music boxes in some of the builds that I've done, and they just Cake's mentioned the Enchanted Grove. There's a music box in there that I've used, and it just gives you that. It changes the feel. So sound does play a part in my builds, but it's also it's I suppose it's providing that atmosphere, that hook, that how you want the person visiting to feel. Do you want them to feel like they've walked into a cave? Because in a cave you wouldn't have a music box.
Right.
So it's how do you feel, or do you want to use a music box to portray that there's a boss shortly coming into the build?
Create your own combat music.
Yeah. Now there's an idea. But it's all what you want the viewers to feel, and hopefully that comes across with just any builder. I mean, I don't know about the others here, and the same for you, Span. Do you feel that? Do you build for what you want people to experience?
Oh, for sure. And sometimes, like you said, sometimes that includes a music box and sometimes it doesn't. I just noticed that none of you in this build use music boxes, so I don't know if
I've only just noticed that now you've mentioned it, to be fair. I was like, I genuinely thought there was one round here somewhere, you know, in a wing or something.
I don't remember hearing one, but
no, Catch has used one.
Where?
She has used boxes.
If you go back to the pot room, there's one in there.
Oh, okay. Bit of vibe. We've spent too long Googling at Melania, and Michaela blessed her with double D's before he left, unfortunately.
I'll be good and go back. There we go.
But this space is incredible. I love these walls, to be honest. They do things such a massive chunk as well. Save so many slots, guys.
You guys want to see something crazy?
Yeah, do it.
Look at Melania now.
What have you done to her? Have you given her double E's?
It's one furnishing, so that's how she looks now.
Lighting.
Oh, you turned the lights off. Lighting is a thing, guys.
Absolutely.
I will just have a look if there are any other quickfire.
Well, we touched on something earlier, which is a point I would like to make. One of the issues I have with music boxes is when people use more than one music box and the melodies overlap.
And
I learned recently that your settings in your video settings affect music boxes and how far away you can hear them.
Oh, no way, it's for real.
Ooh.
Like your view distance or something affects it.
Oh,
I forget exactly which slider,
but distance keeps coming up and causing problems, you know.
I know, and I kind of wish competitions would say either tell us your view distance or use this view distance, because I don't know that it's fair.
Yes.
For judges to experience different builds based on their settings.
Mm.
I don't know the solution to it, but now when I hear overlapping music boxes, I play with my slider to see if they still overlap when I adjust. It's a pet peeve. I hate those overlapping music boxes.
It could be a bit auditory overload, can't it, sometimes as well?
Yeah, I toured one house. It was it was 2 music boxes and like the elsewhere wall, the achievement wall.
Oh, okay.
So
And
that-
it was just a cacophony. And
Yes.
I found myself getting irritated.
Yes. I can
You have that
completely. I
experience when
do.
you walk in.
And it's just
Oh,
overload, sensory overload, and I'm like, get me
can
out,
I
get me out.
move out of this? And I couldn't get away from it. That was the other thing.
Oh no.
Like I tried to take a few steps to the left and go upstairs, and yeah, it was like there were always 2 overlapping. And I wish I had known for that house about the sliders, because yeah, I never would have thought that video sliders would affect music overlap.
No, that's definitely not something you would immediately consider.
Yeah.
I'd just stick to one, unfortunately. I'm a bit like that because I think sensory overload for me is just a massive thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously in between I threw up the trick or treat house because I was so sticking to the Ghibli parameters of what I needed to build for other worlds that I needed to just like housing vomit in a different space and do what I needed to do. And I went, I need to build something dark and horrible and just messy and just I need to, and originally the jump down was going to kill you on the other side, and I was like, nah, let's just be nice to people, and I totally forgot that I'd put that in places until people started like say, oh yeah, we're going round here, and I'm like, oh wait, hold on a minute, and I was like, oh okay, right, that's fine. But how does everybody spend their downtime during builds and during judging as well? Like, obviously, is there anything that you do to sort of decompress? Because again, like you were saying, there's a lot of houses, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of just mental battery that you've got to consume with stream and content creation through that. And stuff like that. How do you spend your downtime? Like, is there anything that do you just go lie down in a dark room like we do?
Specifically during housing competitions or in general?
Just in general, I mean, obviously, is there anything specific? Like, does judging take a heavy toll on you as opposed to like just the general playing of games and being a streamer?
One adjustment I recently made with my housing tours was, for a while I was putting them all up on YouTube. So I would tour houses for 6-7 hours, and then I would go straight into video editing.
Yeah.
And try to put them all up on YouTube. And the last competition, Real End Games, Other Worlds, I opted not to do that. And I did that for 2 reasons. One was just the overload of how much time that takes. And the other reason was, when I did that, I tended not to talk about anything except the build while I was touring the house to make it easier to splice in for YouTube. And I would talk to chat in between houses. And that kills stream when you're building a community and you want to be able to chit chat. And I enjoyed the last one a lot more because I was able to kind of talk to chat like we're doing now, where you're bouncing ideas off of each other and where chat's giving me their opinion and I'm asking them how the builder did on this, Elden Ring boss. And that made it more enjoyable. And I think I will continue that. I'll keep my VODs available, but I don't know that I'll continue to post them on YouTube. And general downtime is, I have had to force myself to find games, or at least portions of games that I don't stream, so that when I play a game for downtime, it doesn't become work. Because it's too easy to like do housing in ESO, which is more of a downtime thing. I tend not to stream housing and think, oh, I should do a tutorial on how to do this in housing. And while it's great for inspiration, it's not really great for downtime. So,
do you find the lines blur a lot, like, or you
absolutely.
find it quite like difficult, just sort of like, oh right, okay, let me just separate this, let me just take a breather, and things like that from time to time?
It absolutely is a complete blur.
I eat cake.
I'm almost always working.
It can be hard, especially when it's like because I mean, I only take a portion like of the content creation side of things because, of one, I repel technology, I'm just sort of setting my foot in the online world and things like that and trying to figure it all out. But I can imagine like just the small bit that I do, and that's just sort of like just the small editing. I'm completely exhausted after one video. I need a nap, and I need a coffee, and I just I need like 3 days
Need a
to
3-day
myself.
nap.
Like, yeah, honestly.
So every Tuesday we have 3 vendors in ESO change what they sell. The Infinite Archive vendor, then they gave us the Scalarium vendor, and now we have the Telvar vendor that change what they offer each Tuesday. So my Tuesday stream, we immediately go into those vendors and I record that for YouTube, and then I'll stream for my 6 hours. As soon as I end stream and raid out and chit chat with the person I raided into, I go straight into my video editing software and I start putting that video out. And it's usually out I stream from 10 to 4 and the video is usually out by 7 or 8.
Oh, you're very good,
Well,
honestly.
this week, we also had the letter from the studio director that came out on Tuesday,
Yes.
which we read and talked about on stream. So this last Tuesday, I put out my Infinite Archive video and it was out by 7. And then I edited the director letter reading and discussion and put that out on YouTube as well. So I didn't finish. I sit at my desk at about 8:30. Stream starts at 10. I didn't finish with work until 12:30.
That's a lot.
At night. And I was exhausted the next day. We played Sims 4 the next day and I just decorated in Sims 4. So it was a nice chill day. But Thursday even, I was getting more tongue-tied than usual. I was forgetting more words than usual. And I'm like just now kind of feeling normal again. And last Tuesday was kind of the same thing. We had the vendor change, which I do every Tuesday. So Tuesday's just my busy day. But we also then had the new Golden Pursuits came out. So we wanted to go over that. And I put that up on YouTube. Like, could they give us stuff on Thursdays, please?
Yeah, just my week at the
Spread it
beginning.
out a little.
Just scatter it through the week a little bit, make my life a bit easier.
Exactly.
When you're in a housing hole as well. Oh, sorry, have you not finished? I'm so rude, honestly. Go on,
No,
carry on,
I was just saying, other than that, I also like to garden. And now that I live in North Carolina in the U.S., I can pretty much garden year round, which is really nice. So sometimes just getting outside and digging around in the dirt is my...
That's amazing. Touching grass.
So I'm actually in training right now to become a master gardener volunteer.
Oh, wow.
In the U.S., we have the Federal Extension Service, which has... every state has an extension office. Each county then has their branch, and they rely heavily on volunteers. So when you as a gardener have trouble with your apple tree or with your cabbage, you can send a picture in, and if we don't know how to diagnose it, we will send it off to one of our associated universities. We help participate in research. And so it's all very local. So we know our local weather, we know our county weather, and our county soil. And so it's actually a 2-year process.
Oh, wow.
To become certified to volunteer. So
That's
I have
insane.
a little over 6 months of classes, and I have a presentation and a final exam, which is open book take home. But apparently last time it was 16 pages of free response.
Oh.
They give you a month to do it. And then I will intern for a year before I'm official.
Span, how do you find the time?
I don't know, but I need to get out of the house more. So that was kind of my... If gardening feeds my soul and I need to make friends, it seemed like a good marriage of the two. So
Just be honest. Do you have clones that work while you're sleeping?
That's insane though. Like that whole lengthy process as well. But
yeah,
gardening something. It's on my to-do list for 2025. I do want to sort my garden out. I want to like just dabble in the I'm in awe. I've got a beautiful space, and unfortunately my Dobermans are digging it up on a daily basis. So I'm like, right, okay, I'm setting that side of things. But my downtime sort of is just like rest it. I just rest. I eat and I rest. I eat cake and I rest. And I found
that all my downtime was sitting here at my computer, and I'm like, Span, you gotta get out of your chair.
Yeah, you're starting to get that little tire on your back, from arching.
Exactly.
Like you need to just get up and walk around, keep the blood flowing, prevent DVT. Cake, come on, like at least two.
and I rent, so I can't really have a traditional garden. But
so do you have
last
like
summer,
a homeowners association kind of thing, like or have you got like limitations to the rental?
no, I rent a house from my landlord, but it's not my house, so I can't just dig up the grass and put in a garden.
I'm renovating, George. Stand aside.
Just
Exactly.
so you know.
Exactly. And I have a very good relationship with my landlord, and my rent is really cheap, and I don't want to do anything to blow that. So,
Yes.
but last year I just got some grow bags because they're nice and cheap. There's like felt bags that you can put soil in.
I've seen them on
And I
Amazon.
purchased some soil, and I was like doing calculations, like if I get so many tomatoes, it'll pay for itself. And because it's very easy to overspend in gardening.
Oh, yes.
And I put the first scoop of soil into the grow bag, and I was like, I don't even care anymore. I was like, I haven't felt like myself in years, and now this is I'm home. This is for my soul now. This is not even for food. And we did grow tomatoes, and it was great.
Oh.
But in that moment, I'm like, no, I need to be gardening. This has to be a part of my life. I have to find room for it. So we now park a little bit further down in the driveway, and I have pots and grow bags and like storage totes that I've filled with soil at the top of my driveway right outside my side door. And my little container garden. And that's my big goal this year is to grow that into like I only did a few things last year, but expanding it is my big goal this year. So that's my primary recharge time.
Nah, do you know what? That sounds so wholesome as well. I wish I could be like, do you know what? I'm dead productive, and I'm not. I'm just like a squirrel. I as soon as I've done all of my guild business, all of my stream business, I sausage roll in a quilt and put my bonnet on my head, and I hug my dog, and that is it. I make sure my kids are well fed, and that is me. And then obviously that scoots over to Catch and Liria, and how I know you two. Like, so I love it because I know when you two are in a housing hole, because you don't reply to my messages, you don't care about me, and you are
We always care about you guys.
you are completely engrossed in the artistic creations that you are building, and absolutely rightly so. I should always come second to that. However, how do you have any downtime? Like, is there anything in particular that you enjoy doing outside of the game, or even just in the game, where it's not housing related, or do you anything like that?
Go for it, Liria.
I love the way you push her. You always push her first, honestly.
Yeah, well, if you get there first, you're welcome to, but
It's all right. I'm just thinking, this is getting even more common and common. My job is my downtime.
what's your job is your downtime.
That is not downtime, Liria. Employment is not downtime. That does not count. I will not accept that as an answer.
I like building things. So I do a lot of wooden and metal kits that allow me to build things. So you've got the Rokar's gramophone that I've recently built that works and actually plays records, which was
wow.
challenging. Catch has seen my clock fascination that I've been building and have built that are now randomly around the house. Yeah, and just sort of spending time with my mates. Away from things. I'm slowly being indoctrinated into Grey's Anatomy. Only how many years late? Yeah, so it's just get away from the PC, go out, build things, use my hands, and just feel productive doing that. I used to do sort of arts and crafts with things like dot painting, cross stitch, stuff like that, but that's also quite a slow process, and that can get quite frustrating that you can't see the progress of what you're doing. So it was like, I need to find something that gives me that, which I get with the wooden projects. So I kind of dab into the arts and crafts a little bit for my downtime.
Okay. Catch, stop hiding in a corner.
I like it here.
Yeah.
Hey, I did that last stream. Stop copying.
Yeah. They just find random corners to hide in. Yeah, what do you do in your downtime?
So building an ESO basically is my downtime. I also dance. I'm a lifelong dancer. I've
Oh, wow.
competed dance. Actually, I've competed in everything I've ever done in my life. Currently, it's a running.
It's a
there's
catch
some
thing.
common streak there I'm not picking up. But yes, I own my own business, which has expanded hugely this year, which has taken up a lot of time. It's going to take up even more time next year. So I also love to garden. My mom is a major green fingers, so she's always been inspiration to me.
I'm so
That
jealous.
woman can turn any patch of dirt into an absolute fairy garden. She's amazing. And so yes, I do like to garden. I love my little fur babies. My fiance obviously give him as much time as I can, and I build an ESO and I
J-Dog.
dance. That's my downtime, and sometimes even sleep.
No, you've got we do have insomnia chats, don't we? All of us.
Sometimes,
from time to time.
sometimes we even sleep.
We are each other's emotional support blankets and things like that. Right, I will fire a couple more questions to the lot of you. If anyone can answer them, it's an open table, and then we will start winding things down for the evening as well.
Liria, you can go first.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be over here quietly muted myself.
No, you're not. None of you have been muted the entire evening. Shut up. And so, for anybody that potentially watches this on the VOD or is watching or lurking, newer builders, people that are in the shadows at the moment, that potentially want to dip their foot in a very big pond and things like that, what advice do you have for any beginner builders that are potentially setting that goal for 2025 to make a build and put it out there in the world and release it? I love that. Don't all speak at once.
I personally would say take it slow. Don't rush into it. Do something that inspires you. It's supposed to be there for enjoyment. Don't force it. It will come. It might take a year, it might take 2 years, but just enjoy the process. Don't force it.
And don't be afraid to tour other people's houses and borrow ideas, make it your own. You don't want to copy anything verbatim, but we as housers absolutely do see ideas from people. You know, a portcullis in front of a rug with a light behind it becomes a window, you know. We all borrow ideas and then make it your own. So don't be afraid to mimic other people's ideas, to see how it works, and then add your own spin to it.
Yeah, I would say just do what makes you happy. It's if it gets to a point where it's not making you happy anymore, then you probably aren't doing it right. Just chill and enjoy it. You have to. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
It has been an amazing outlet, and I think that anybody that doesn't have a little coven should put like a little advertisement out to try and get one or make one. Because I think that a lot of the support systems that you have around you when you're building, and just try it, 100%, whether you win or lose, just try it and kind of build for you. Don't build for judges or other people. Build what you see and what you imagine, and allow other people the honor of stepping into your world. And I kind of think when people take away the competitive side and things like that, like we always visit houses that we draw inspiration from, and I know that we have collectively a few builders that when they release a new house on Housefolio or anywhere, and we're like, oh, they've got a new build, come on, let's go see, add it to the list,
and rush over to see it.
And we go and see it,
Wednesday
and we have a look
morning.
around. Wednesday, DJ Freed at Lilithnia,
there's so
there's
many.
many. The Big Meow, the Smiley, again, like there's so many big, like absolutely talented people, and we get really excited, and again we draw inspiration from that. And we, especially like me and Liria as newer builders, we just absolutely, I'm just like bow down to the lot of yous. Like, I did not expect to even remotely. I'm only here for a pink torch bug pet, guys. I don't know whether I've told you that. But that's it. Like, I didn't expect to even remotely be this far into a housing hole. But Catch and Liria didn't let me leave either. And
You're welcome.
Every single one of you is like, even, just from Span, you've got the hardest job, I think, out of all of us. I know our job's fairly hard, but to go in there and try and step into other people's worlds, and we always hope that we've portrayed that as builders and stuff like that. So when we do hit the mark, like we have done this season that we've just had, and we came in and we relayed all of that, and we took on board feedback potentially from Enchanted Grove, and we learned, and it was a whole learning curve. And again, I, as just a humble new builder that doesn't know nothing about nothing, I use my UHT, I clobble me shit, and I got second, guys. I got second. I don't even know how it happened. I don't even know how it happened. And
job.
Again, I hope this is the start of many more great conversations that we have in the future in 2025. And has anybody, just before we end and wind down, has anybody got any goals where we're going to find everybody? In housing holes, judging holes, variety holes?
My goal for 2025 is just to have time to house. That's like
just find
that's a great goal. Great goal.
just to find the time for my little art projects. That's my goal.
Don't worry, we'll drag you into housing. We have furnishings to find.
It's all right. We've got a sack. Me and Liria have got a sack and some cable ties in the back after stream, right? You're not going anywhere, Catch. It's fine. Okay. We have to let Span go.
You did remember to wash it from last time, right, Kate?
No, I didn't. Shush. But we let Span go. She comes back, and we lure her into a false sense of security. Stream 6, that's it. We're getting her. Get her in the sack. And it's been an absolute pleasure to sit down and just have a nice, wholesome housing chat with you guys. It's been an absolute honour, as always. I genuinely think the Baileys has kicked in now. So, again, thank you very much, ladies. Is there any departing words? Just thanks.
For me,
thank you so much for having me.
Span, because this was just
thanks for putting up with us, Span. It was.
I would love to chat with you guys anytime.
Yeah, 100%. We are going to do this again. I'm secretly just feeding Span loads of content and being like, please just put up with us for a couple more shows. We'll be fine, and hopefully we'll have more to come as well. And then I will briefly pause stream, and then I will do the giveaway as well if anybody wants it. I have put all the details in chat, but while we're on a be right back, while I say wind down with these absolutely wonderful panel that I have had this evening, I will come back to you lot, so stay right there.